Hello everybody, and welcome. I don't think TV is here. Yes, TV's gone still, so I believe it's just me streaming this at the moment. So what we got here today is our little community meeting that we put together. We have a lot of different people joining us to express different concerns and such. And if you guys want to like just introduce who's here, just to start with you, Patty. They're up at the top. Sorry.
Just like the name and stuff.
Yeah. Just like we'll just do like the little classroom thing, like we're doing the throwback. So just so we know, everyone knows who's talking here, because everyone can't see the lobby. So we'll just start it with you and just work our way down, just kind of like, hey, I'm so and so, and etc. or something like that. Just kind of the icebreaker that we do at the start of class, just so people know whose voice is who.
Yeah, let everybody know what your clan and or organizational affiliation is, so they kind of know who you are.
That too.
So we're going to start at Pontiac Pat and work down, because on my list of people talking, it's alphabetical.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's starting with the other Pat, not Pontiac Pat, the other Pat.
Oh, sorry, Audacity. Fair enough.
Let me know when you want me to start.
Yeah, go for it.
Hey everybody, I'm Audacity, currently part of Top Notch Gaming. Been a part of this community since day one that it launched on console.
Cool. My name's Dnaxis, guys. I'm part of Unleashed, European team for the most part. I have been playing this since the beta, I think, on the 360. Although I did dabble a little bit with the PC first, just to see what it's like. And I have been loving and hating it since, in equal measure.
I'm HellscatDth, part of Punished. I host Wednesday Night Fights. Been playing the game since the beginning also, and I'm all about the community. So I'm here for all the community guys.
I'm Mad Hatter. I've done Twitch streaming since Cinco de Mayo, 2014 or 15. No, that's not a coincidence. And also done admin for WCL. I've been closed beta for World of Tanks on 360 as well.
I'm MP KOODER, part of TNG Dash. I've been playing this game for 3 years. Played a little bit of PC. Most interested in the comp side of the game. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm Pontiac Pat. In addition to being a WCL admin for, what, a year and a half now, I've just shy my 3rd-year anniversary in the game, and I am the executive officer of Clan 47 Ronin.
Excuse me.
So Tubins Immortals. I've been playing this game pretty much since it originally came out. I think like a month after it came out or something like that. You should be able to tell who I am. I'm sure my accent, nobody else is going to sound like me, so should be easy for you.
Alright, I'm Ty Viper, part of 7F. Been playing this game since mid-August 2013 in beta. The game back then, been playing it ever since.
I'm TomAce, affiliated with Punished, as well as a Super Tester. Been playing the game for about 2 years.
I'm WrathofAchilles, commander of KMD. Been playing the game since day one, and I've been a Super Tester for a couple years now.
All right, I believe that is everybody here. So you can move on to our first point. We'll talk about patch kits and their implications. And like we talked about before, like Pat mentioned, since patch kits tests got canceled, and to my knowledge, there's been no word as to whether it will come back, if it will come back. I don't really know if it needs to be beat into the dirt or anything like that. So we just kind of like quickly brush through these and stuff like that. What are they? Is a consumable that allowed you to regen your 20% of your health over 30 seconds when activated. And the implications of that can be seen on this spreadsheet here. If anyone wants a link to this spreadsheet, you can either ask me in chat or ask me in the suggestion box. And this just goes through different averages of HP pools. If somebody wants to like explain to this in a little bit more detail, I mean, if you would like to touch on it, then go for it. As to like what it's kind of like telling you about the patch kits.
I mean, just I wrote the spreadsheet, but it's basically just it was an arduous process, I've got to say, because the console side of World of Tanks doesn't easily give you quick access to health pools and correct alpha damage and top gun configurations and stuff. There's a lot of toing and froing to get that information. But anyway, it's basically a set of averages in terms of health pools and alpha distributed across tier 10 and tier 8. And it basically just tries to show how much worse off a tier 8 tank using a patch kit is compared to using a tier 10. And after replicating that at 5 and 7, tier 5 and 7, I believe that it's quite simple. It's quite easy to postulate that every 2-tier spread will have quite a significant gap between them, so that it would make being top tier even more powerful using it. So it's there as a community tool to use and read and engage with if they want to.
Essentially making that grind even more more worse off, I guess, than before. Correct? If that's, I guess.
That's one aspect of it. I mean, there's the aspect of the grind. Like if you're in a tier 5 and you've only just started, say you've played for like 6 hours of your Sunday, and suddenly get to 5, and you're like, yes, I've got my VK 3001H, I'm good to go, and you run into a Tiger, and he has an effective health pool of 1800. That can't be a fun mechanic in the game, really.
Yeah.
What is the, and I just want to throw out there, like, just to piggyback off what you just said, I wonder, like, because, like, say you're fighting him, right, and he uses the repair kit. So basically, every shot you put on the Tiger, he immediately heals for that amount of damage, basically, what it equates to, right? Like, I don't know what the exact percentages are, but just kind of silly, you know what I mean?
Well, you can run the numbers real quick.
100, and then you're going to, by the time I reload, you're going to basically heal for that damage.
So let's put it in perspective. A Tiger with 1,500 hit points would heal 300, that's 20%, over 30 seconds. So it's going to be a rate of 10 hit points per second.
Yeah,
per second.
And the average alpha damage of the 3001H is 135. So you're talking about the Tiger being able to take an extra 2.3 shots on average, approximately. Yeah. And I can't 100% confirm this off the top of my head, but I don't believe that the 3001H would really have the DPM to counter the kit. Although I'm only just postulating.
Not if the Tiger was at full health. Not if the Tiger was at full health, he wouldn't be able to.
Another note that we touched on, I guess we didn't touch on, I mean, Viper talked about before earlier this week, was especially with coming in regards to the Tiger, is if they had the Craft Panther crew skill, then that could be potential double, so it just inflates it even much more so. I mean, of course, that's not for every nation, but just for this particular example, it's something to think about.
Another thing to consider is the PC change where they added in the reusable consumables, where it's like on a 90-second cooldown. Would that coming into the game, if it was to be brought into the game as a primary consumable that everyone could pick, does that mean that we would never see that change coming? Because obviously that consumable would be completely broken at that point.
Yeah.
And that means that we miss out on...
They have the ability to pick and choose which consumables are on a timer and which ones aren't.
Yeah, so something that detrimental might not be it.
I think
All
what's more
sorry.
critical is just the whole concept of healing. I mean, it's been discussed on the forum, and I think we're pretty much all in general agreement that health is the sacred cow, right? That's what your whole strategies are all about. And so anything that changes your health level fundamentally changes the game. And so the community spoke pretty loud and clear that that's just not acceptable. In a special mode, no big deal. The Gorinich was fun as a novelty, but there's no way we would ever want to play a game where that was the regular thing.
I would kind of echo what he just said. Is I think that's a fundamental bad game mechanic. It's altering a fundamental game mechanic of your set designated health pool and changing it. And the reason why I got on board with this boycott that was going on was I think it's another example of a bad fundamental game mechanic change. I'm not a fan of weather mechanics, reducing view range, radio range, the core mechanics of the game. I'm not a fan of that, and I don't like that direction that they've been going in. And the patch kit thing, I agree with what people are saying about it. It exacerbates the frustration of a +2, -2 matchmaking system. And we're all veteran players.
Thank you for the follow, man. I'm going to be turning that alert off for this meeting, but thank you for following and anyone else
he's got 5,000
going to be
battles.
following.
And I think Wargaming doesn't do a good job bringing new players in, educating new players on the game mechanics. And I think when they throw in these things that alter them, for new players, I think it's hard. I think it's a barrier to entry, and I think it's do you guys remember how frustrating it was, the +2, -2, when you're in your tier 7 and you get matched up against a VKB and you don't know what to do against that guy? I mean,
no. Yeah, I completely agree with you, and this is something I think when we jump to the so I would like to eventually go through like all the different votes in that poll that Ace put and just kind of like talk about like why this one's important, like why this one was put there, because there was a lot of different suggestions and we kind of narrowed it down a little bit and tried categorizing them effectively and stuff like that. So if we want to go through that, we can. And that's one of the things that are on there is tutorials and videos and things like that to basically do like with what you're saying, to educate new players so they're not just like rage quitting the game, essentially, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I sent my cousin to YouTube all the videos that PC puts out about penetration mechanics and armor angling and vision and view range. I mean, I sent him straight to those 15-minute videos and said, watch these over and over again. And I think that should be accessible in-game. I think there should be a tab, a menu or something that has videos and tutorials that go in depth to the mechanics. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, we can.
Well, there used to be on the 360, right? I have both a 360 and a 1, and I seem to recall last time I fired up the 360, it was still there on the 360, but it's not on the 1.
Yeah, I mean the videos are already out there. Yeah, I think it's always been a problem too. But the videos, the information is out there. I don't know that it would be that hard for console to just put those videos. I mean, they're made by the same company, granted, a parent company.
They could just
it'd
make
be
a
nice.
button
I mean, like you see,
on.
like when they come out the Battle Heroes or whatever, even if they had links or something in that to help educate people. But that's always been a problem since the game came out. Like even when I first started playing, first got me 100. Now thing's blocked. All right, so I got to figure out how to angle this thing, and I got to figure out how to play this thing, right? So I figured, oh well, let me go to YouTube. It's got to be somebody there who knows how to play this thing, right? Type in E100. Guy's got 17 videos. Watch the guys going down Abbey Road shooting HE, screaming in the mic. I can do this all day. It's not going to teach me how to play. Okay.
Yeah, you mean like serious tutorial videos, not just like let's plays of the tank. Is that like what you're referring to?
I mean, even if they directed somebody in the community that did it, it would help new people. I mean, the sake of argument, if somebody's going to come in a game that's 3 years in, like KOODER's cousin's got KOODER, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Joe Smo's got nobody. Okay. So why is Joe Smo going to keep playing if he's not going to learn how to play? He's going to hope to find somebody. He has to find somebody. Or he has to hope on YouTube that he clicks on the right thing. Okay. A lot of things when I see, like, they kind of promote, there's a lot of, I mean, maybe there's not a lot, but there's a lot of good YouTubers that do console, somewhat. Not all of them talk, which really doesn't help. But sake of argument, they need to put links or even put something on the forums that directs people to this. I don't know if they do. I'll be honest with you. I don't go on the forums all the time. I don't go on the website all the time. But it never was there when I started playing. I don't think it's still there now.
There's really nothing like that. It's really.
Yeah, but sake of argument, if you make somebody who's coming into the game, now the player base, from what I can see, and I'm only going off the top of my head of what I see with my own eyes, but it really hasn't gone too down, really hasn't gone too up. Ever since I kind of put that thing where you can look and just click over X at people's names and bring up their stats page. There's a lot of new people that I see playing this game. 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 battles. Okay, these guys are not going to stick around if they can't figure out how to play the game. But
well,
I mean,
I think that's a good point. You know, I'm making an assumption here, but all of us in this chat here, we're all seasoned gamers and we're curious about this game. We have a natural, I mean, like we're going to go seek out on how to be better at this game. I think a big portion of this player base is
I don't believe so. It might be a little
casual gamers. I'm going to call them.
I don't
guys
know camouflage too well.
Only play on
personally.
weekends or play every other week or so. I don't think they have the inclination as a gamer to. This is an assumption, granted, but to go out and seek all this information from third-party sources, I just think it would be so much more helpful if it was in-game.
I would agree with that, because another thing that, especially like being in WCL, that we take it, try to take account as much as possible, is like a lot of people are playing the console version because they don't have a PC. Like that's what they have, is a console, maybe a phone too. A lot of people using Discord are on their phone, like when we talk to them for WCL and stuff like that. And I don't know about you guys personally, but I hate using the YouTube app on Xbox. Like, it's just so annoying. I don't like doing it. So I would not go out of my way to go and find a tutorial video when my only real access to the internet is like my Xbox and like my phone. Either like I don't have a data plan or something like that, or like it's like a phone and it's like buffering all the time or whatever because my internet's not good, or like for whatever reason, is just kind of go out of my way to find that. So that's another reason to get just like a more in-depth tutorial system of some kind into the game for new players. And I think that's just like touching on that, I think that's like a really important concept, because we want this game to not only like survive but strive, right? And so like in order for that, you need the new players. You can't we can't be focusing all on just the current player base. Like, we want new players to get into the game so we can make the game grow. It's not going to go anywhere if it's just always focused on its current player base, who are eventually going to leave anyway for something or other, because that's just what happens. People move on, and so it's kind of trying to refresh the population.
Yeah,
it's very important.
Yeah, that's like business 101.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to attract new players, but it's so hard to attract new customers, new players. The easier you can make it for them, the better. And then, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, that difficulty in attracting a new paying player, that is the reason why Wargaming needs to make sure that they don't alienate unnecessarily any of the existing paying players.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a unique game in the games that I've played and helped beta for and things over the years, in that it has a much older demographic than almost every other game I've ever played. And that's significant, because older players, more mature individuals, aren't as quick either to join something or to leave it once they get roots. And so that's something that Wargaming has to consider. There's a unique dynamic to that older demographic.
Mm.
And I'm willing to bet that the older demographic spends more per capita than the younger one does.
Yeah, but I think the bottom line, the easier it is, the more people are going to keep playing it. I mean, the game works like this. Like when I first started playing, okay, and I logged into the game, what I would do is I would see tanks that I wanted. Okay, now what's the quickest way to get the tank? Well, you can buy it. Okay, well, I'm not going to spend $50 to get a tier 7 tank, right? The other quickest way is to actually start to learn how to play and get XP and then go and get the tank. So people who log on who kind of get that addicted, I want this kind of thing, which maybe not every casual gamer is. I mean, I really don't know. I can only speak for myself. But that's kind of how I am, okay? So my thing was, well, I want to learn how to make more XP so I can get the tank quicker. Now, if I'm logging onto YouTube and trying to do everything myself, it's going to take me hours and I'm going to give up. But if there's a button I can click, whether it's on a website or it's on a form or it's on something, makes things a lot easier than sitting there and play. Because the fact of the matter is, if I take an hour out of my time and not play the game and learn how to play the game, the next hour I'm going to make just as much as I did the other hour XP wise, because I actually know what I'm doing somewhat, quote unquote. But that's just my opinion on it.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback off. I don't know how I want to explain this, but like we're talking like how to get people in this game and you play in this game, right? Is try to make it as easy as possible, but you still want depth, which I feel like we have. You know what I mean? And let's be honest here. This game's not overly that difficult, but there is layers of depth to it where an experienced player will know stuff that a new person won't. But I feel like the inclusion of like weather variants and like just fundamental changes, I feel like that is adding more layers of depth to the game where casual players, it hurts the casual players more than it does the
experienced
players. You know what I mean? I mean, you're changing fundamentals of the game where, casual players, they play 1,000 battles. They start getting the hang of the game mechanics and what have you. And then we have stuff like weather variants and patch kits, which is changing that fundamental aspect of the game. Well, naturally, that's going to make it harder for them, and they're going to stop playing. So, like, I don't understand why Wargaming is putting this stuff in. Oh, this is going to be great. It's going to be fun. Blah blah blah. And yet they want to continue to drive numbers, but in reality, this type of stuff, this changing the fundamental game mechanics is actually going to. A, we're going to lose more players, and B, like we're not even going to get the players because of these mechanics. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it's a double-edged sword, dude, both ways, and it's just like when they came out with that compass map. Okay, I played the game like 2.5 something years, and I used the same map. Okay, now I'm talking about like what did I have at the time? I don't know, 33,000 battles. I'm using the same map, and all of a sudden I log on one day, and the map that I've been using for 33,000 battles is gone. I seriously didn't want to play the game because I'm not going to sit there after all that time and completely learn how to use something new.
But I get what you're saying, but I have to respectfully disagree because they do give you the option where you can change it, albeit they didn't
I don't think so.
advertise that option at all, really. So unless unless someone told you or you were messing around with your controller trying to get the setting back to the map, you really didn't know. But at least they gave you the option to go back to the original map that you wanted to use. So I get what you're saying, but I do disagree with that statement. They do give you the option. They just advertised, hey, we changed this. You can still use this, do this to get back to what you were used to. They didn't do that at all. So I mean, I get what you're saying. I have to disagree, but Wargaming didn't help themselves.
When they changed a small compass map that was in the corner, I could have used the one that I was using because they had to change it back.
I just think that was a mistake on their part on scale. I think y'all are talking about two separate things, guys.
Yeah, I think you got me confused. I'm talking about I don't know which map you guys use. Okay, now
you were talking like the bottom right mini map of the game, right?
Yes.
And we're talking about when you have the compass where it's really zoomed in, and then they came out with the actual, like the full mini map where it's scaled down a lot more and you can see the entire map on that little mini, correct? Correct. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, you can use both. I mean, like how it is now. Okay. Do you remember when they changed it when you had the blue lines and like if you were playing INSC, the whole map like wouldn't fit? Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Now, like, it goes back to the reason why I brought that up, okay? One is because it's a game mechanic, okay? Game mechanic was in the game 2.5 years, and they changed it. And there was, as far as I know, because I seriously, I'm not even exaggerating with you, just didn't want to play the game. I mean, I knew they were going to change it back. It was such an awful idea, at least in my opinion. It was such an awful idea. I knew they were going to have to change it back, and they did. But, like, it goes back to the thing. Like, if you're going to change, like, fundamentals and little tiny things of a game that's been established, it's going to make it harder for people to want to play it. It's also going to make the people that are actually playing it not want to play it. But that's the only reason why I brought up that point.
No, actually, yeah. After hearing that,
Didn't they implement it like basically right away though? I thought it was like I thought you could automatically change it back like the day they introduced the square, or was there like a time period where you couldn't get the circle again?
I'm not talking about like the square and the circle. Like how it is now is how I like it. I'm talking about when they had it for like, I don't know, maybe it was like 3 weeks, 2 weeks. I don't even remember. I mean, this is like, I don't know what, 5, 6 months ago. When they had that crazy, they made like a new compass map with like the blue dots and everything. And when the blue lines came out and you kind of see a cone, and then you would get on like a city map and you couldn't even see what was around the corner anymore.
Yeah, I think, yeah, guys. I mean, I think we're getting into a little bit of a complaining thing here, but I think that was a mistake on their part. They took the compass map and it wasn't scaled correctly, and everyone was complaining. And so then they went back and they fixed it. So that's what he's talking about.
All right, I got you. And I think that opens
yeah, I think I was during one of my like 2-month hiatuses during that time, so that's why I didn't know what you're talking about.
And I think that opens up just a whole nother can of worms where we don't have the test and they don't.
We can jump to that stuff. Let's try staying like according to like the agenda right now, that stuff out of the way, and then we'll jump into like more like that kind of stuff a little bit later on. We talked about effects of top versus low tier for patch kits. Are we done with patch kits? Do we even need to talk about this anymore?
I can make one more point if you want, just because.
For or against? Like, are we talking about marks
against?
Or?
Oh, Ty, you love patch kits. What are you talking
about? When Payne announced that he canceled the patch kits, he made the point that caused him to cancel it, and the feedback. It was about the feedback about how they would affect marks of excellence, and well, that feedback, at least to my knowledge, he got from Cranky Boy, which is another wargaming employee that both Mad Hatter and I talked to in Discord that same day, only hours before they canceled patch kits, in which we brought up that specific point about how the damage standings
specifically brought up that point in the same thread.
So obviously then the damage standings would be increased massively over the course of that weekend, and then after the patch kits were, damage standing would be at a level that was unattainable now for at least the next couple of weeks, maybe month or so, just due to the massive HP in the game.
Yeah, it sort of begs the question that if a wargaming employee brought this up in conversation, how come this was not brought up months ago when this was first
No, we brought it up to him, not.
Well, we brought it up. We brought it up.
Yeah, he didn't know about.
Don't forget the super test aspect of this also. I mean, the super testers were even saying they didn't want that this would be broken.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say something about the super testers and
let's. Yeah, I think let's. I know I get what you're going at, KOODER. Can we? Yeah, can we have a whole section where we kind of talk about that, like
the super test aspect, or like testing in general?
Exactly.
Testing in general.
I think we could.
The only thing I wanted to say just quickly is I know a lot of super testers, and from their feedback, from their perspective, Wargaming as a company does not listen to their feedback. I also know that the super tests are released literally 1 or 2 days before they're implemented in game.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how that model is an effective super test.
Well, I think both myself as a super tester and obviously Achilles as well, him being a super tester, we're probably gonna have a lot to say about that during
that. One thing I would recommend to you guys is make sure you watch what you say when we get to you with that, because remember you're like under NDA.
We both have NDA signed, so yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure. So
yeah, I'm not trying to talk about specifics. It's just the concept in general doesn't seem to make sense to me, and you know, that's all I'm going to say about it. I don't know how effective. What's the point of having a super test? And if you're not going to listen to their feedback, and you're only going to give them the opportunity to test your updates 48 hours beforehand.
It doesn't sound like a super test, even though that's what it's branded as.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
And again, this is stuff that we can definitely talk about when we actually get to that talking point.
Yeah,
There's going to be a lot more to talk about as far as that goes.
We'll have a whole section.
So might as well dive in.
Before we move on, I just want to touch one more thing with patch kits, and it's not necessarily patch kits as well. I just think where most of the problem lies is after the boycott was quote unquote successful and we got patch kits out. I just think that Wargaming, it seemed like they were backpedaling, and just the overall message they were sending out this whole time from when they were implementing it to telling us that it's canceled. They need to do a better job of actually telling us the stuff. Like the message they try to send us, there's so much room to interpretation and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I know Payne said, let's all be honest here. When we first heard patch kits, they weren't really clear, and we thought, okay, this is a test for it to come out in, public battles. You know what I mean? Where it would cause basically all the impact that we previously talked about. And they kind of backtrack. No, we just want it for special events, blah, blah, blah. And then they backtrack again. Well, if they were upfront with us in the first place, the exact vision they had for patch kits, this might have gone a whole different way. I just think they need to do a better job of actually conveying their message.
And they're aware of that. That's like one of the first things that Cranky Boy said to me and Viper when he chopped in his Chaz, yeah, we messed up with communication and that sort of essence, and not like being a little too vague and confusion. The rebuttal point is, if it's an event, then if it's for an event, then assuming the event is either scaled down or it doesn't work I'm guessing the event has to do something that's like exactly like pubs, but you could have put that event in super test too or something like that. It's really not really a good reason.
Why were they planning on implementing it in the standard battles?
Exactly.
It was supposed to be included for events and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it just seemed like they were backpedaling.
Right. It just created a whole perception.
It's not
that they weren't being honest with us. It just created a really bad perception.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're well aware of that. I think the whole scenario is a big hint that they get. Yes, it was too vague, and I think they understand that pretty well. Is that closing up patch kits for everybody though? Is everybody good with that now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think people who have been following the boycott have heard many of the reasons why most of us are against it anyway.
Okay. Yeah, and that's kind of like the next point is like the boycott. Or at least the next point that's on this sheet that I was like, this is a boycott for like what is it and why, effect on the community, importance of a united community, and goals of the boycott supporters after the patch kits were dropped. What is it and why, I think is debatable for who you ask that's a part of the boycott. I think different people had different reasons. Of course, united around the patch kits. Because I talked to a lot of different people that were involved with it, and some people were just like in it for just to get rid of the boycott, or not get rid of the patch kits. I'm sorry, and other people were like, is trying to let's start with the patch kits, and it's because we want Wargaming to listen to the community a little bit better. And that's kind of like where I was personally on it. I don't know, like, how would everyone feel? Like, I guess, like, what was like your guys's like reasons for like the boycott and stuff like that? Like, was it just purely patch kits, or was it just the whole communication thing in general?
I wouldn't mind leaving this off. Actually, I should probably, but sorry, Ty. Originally it was boycotts, and then immediately thought, well, if this does work, maybe this can lead into something where we can work as a community better with Wargaming to make this game better in the future. So, yeah, it was originally for boycotts, but then, possibly it could lead to a better platform that we can work with them and they can work with us as well.
Well, for me, it was like, how long has it been that we've voiced our suggestions on the forums when they come up with something new that we don't think is a good idea? Usually most of the people voicing their opinions at the time are against whatever the idea is. And most of the time, wargaming hasn't really seemed to care that much about what people say. So I felt like there was a much more drastic measure that was needed to be taken to get their attention. Maybe make them feel that we're a lot more serious about ideas and opinions on what they want to implement than they think we are. So,
for me, it was just the last straw, and I'm tired of the mechanical changes they're making with view range, radio range on certain maps, the increased health pools. I'm curious if they play their own game, because if you want to make changes to core mechanics, I think there's areas that maybe can be tweaked or tested that would make the game less frustrating. As much as I love the game, there are certain aspects of core mechanics that are just frustrating. So I don't know why they wouldn't look at those instead of doing some of the things they're doing. That was my reason. I was just...
I think it's because and I think this is a really horrible underline here, is that things that we generally see and want, like balance changes and stuff, that doesn't make money. Reskins
no,
make
I
money,
get it.
all
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Right.
that's we'll be touching on the whole money aspect to come with that kind of stuff. So it has to do with that. Then we'll get to that for sure, because I think there's a lot of different opinions when it comes to specifically just that topic. Because of course money is an important thing for not just the devs but for the community as well. So that's like a whole big conversation.
If I can give my 2 bits on why a boycott. Ace and I had a little bit of a conversation in Discord here about it before I threw in my support for it. And the bottom line is we wanted to do something that would make a clear statement in a respectful way. I think we all saw what happened with Foshgate and wanted to avoid that. And something that directly affects the game, but in a way that's still respectful, passive resistance, would get a very clear message across. Even if it only ended up being a 5 or 10% drop in server population, that would be a significant anomaly on their radar when they looked at the stats, and they would know that there was something major going on. So, a boycott was a very effective way of doing that. And I think the fact that we did it calmly, without a bunch of crap attached to it, and when they looked at the list of clans and stuff, that organizations that were supporting it, it didn't take them long, I think, to do the math and realize that there was a potential drop of several thousand players for that weekend. And so that sends a very clear message that a forum poll doesn't encompass, because a really big forum poll is a couple hundred respondents. A couple thousand is a whole nother iteration of impact,
Yep.
For me, the reason why I joined the boycott was, I think, I heard about PatchKit quite a while ago from somebody who knows us testers. And I say quite a while ago, it was like maybe 2 months ago, somebody just mentioned PatchKits, consumables that will let you regain health. And I went, all right, okay. And I didn't think much of it at the time. And then I got reminded again when the June preview came up. And I went, oh yeah, they're coming. And it wasn't until I think the way it worked was Ace really got the ball rolling on the boycott. And then my clan leaders and clan members started talking about it in our Discord server. And then I went, I then decided that I need to have a serious look at this. And that's when I just quickly thought of the maths behind this and the game balance of it, and went, "Oh God, this is really not good." I need to, my first reasoning for building the spreadsheet, for example, was to talk to my commanders in UNL to support this, because they basically were on the lines of, let's test it and try it. But similar to KOODER, I think I was already I've been on last straw with wargaming, I think for 6 months now, maybe, or something like that. And just slowly, my soul of enjoying this game is slowly being eroded away. And I realized that even if it wasn't for this boycotting this particular issue, to say I love patch kits, the idea of boycotting really sends a clear message and tries to give us some tiny amount of power back. Not even back, just give us some amount of power now, so that we can at least try and open a conversation with them, rather than we get a monthly preview and then stuff gets thrown at us, whether for good or bad.
Pretty much just to see where you stand. You know, I mean, either they're going to listen or they're not. And I think there's been a long time we kind of voiced our opinions when they came out with something we didn't agree with. We knew it was a bad idea, and they try it out, and then they change it. But if we did something like this as a community, they were either going to say yes or they were going to say no, and that was really going to give you a direct answer. It's the main reason why I did it. I mean, you get an answer to see where you stand with the people, but that's really it.
Yeah.
I got involved with the boycott. I got a chance, obviously, to test them myself, obviously, in Super Test, and I didn't like them. It was, as many of you guys have already stated, the change in the core mechanics of the game. And something that I've always loved about this game, what's been unique, is you have your tank, your health pool, and it's all about using that to the most effective way you can. If you're bottom tier, you find ways to adapt and play differently. If you're top tier, it's going to be different. Suddenly you can regen 20% of your health, just throws that completely out the window. And it was something that was going to set a precedent if this was put into the game, even as a test, in my opinion, that it sets a precedent of, well, let's add something else that might change something here. You know, let's add a little bit more. Let's keep moving that goalpost. And then Ace contacted me when he had this idea, and I jumped on board right away. And we had discussions in my own clan, and we were basically, except for I think one dissenting voice, we were unanimous, and this is just a bad idea. And it's going to completely change how this game is played. So I was happy to see that as a community, you know, we argue and debate a lot. People who want changes to various things, to buffs, nerfs. It looked like this was one of the few times we're all together on the same page, and it was nice to see. Like, let's see if wargaming takes us seriously for once. Are they going to just ignore us? Are they going to placate us, or will they listen to our concerns?
And kind of playing off of what you were just saying there, the reason why I thought this boycott was so important, that we, all the clans came together to for this, wasn't necessarily so much about the patch kits. For me, it's a change in the game mechanic. Change sucks, but change happens. Did I think it was a good change? No, but it was really about just the fact that wargaming knew that the vast majority of players and almost all of testing, all of the super testers, didn't like this change and had voiced very loudly that this wasn't going to be something that we were approving of, and they were moving ahead without considering that. There was never a hesitation on their part, and it was just clear that that they weren't really concerned about what our vision of the game was. And so it wasn't so much about that specific change, just about their attitude as a whole.
I think another discussion which we could have on that is, what does this game mean for different people? Because most of us in here are relatively high-level players, if not some of the best players, and we haven't got any representation of Joe Bloggs with 500 games here. So most of our leanings will be a lot more to the competitive side of the game, rather than I'm just playing this game because I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's kind of the point I wanted to make. Was it's like because I feel you on the whole not listening thing. I've heard a lot through my Twitch chat over the years, and the occasional peruse on the forums and looking at all the different Discord servers I'm in, different complaints and different echoes, and it's always like kind of generally the same thing about the same topics. And you would think, well, these have been voiced everywhere, why haven't they listened? And so it comes down to, not really so much like wargaming as a community, or as working with their community. They are very involved with their community in different aspects from what I've seen from either doing a bunch of different things. As for listening, it really just comes down to, I guess, who you ask. Are they listening to Joe Smell, like you pointed out, at his 500 games, or to like this person. And so the way that I have kind of seen it, just and through my eyes over like, you know, the last couple of years, has been that it seems like Wargaming just kind of like pick and chooses, like, you know, it's like, oh, well, I like this guy's feedback, you know, let's listen to him or something like that, you know. It's like kind of like selective hearing, and that's what it seems to me, because I see like a lot of different, like, you know, very experienced players make very good points, and it just never gets implemented, either because I guess maybe it didn't have enough voice behind it, or whatever, because, you know, bring out like very good points as to why this is broken or why this is unbalanced or something like that. So I guess it comes down to not so much that they aren't involved with the community, it's just that they're maybe listening to the wrong people, and that's a debatable topic as to who is the right people, you know.
Well, you're kind of touching on a topic that if I give my opinion, I'll probably upset a few people. I always see.
Go for it.
That's why I was saying it's when you start saying who is going to be the right person, you're gonna upset whoever is currently the right person. You know, that's how it works.
Well, so what I want to say is I think that wargaming sometimes has this echo chamber mentality. They just want to put these ideas out there and have everyone tell them what a good idea it is, and that's the only people they listen to. That's my perception. But I always see this line on the forums from people that say, why should one person's voice be considered more than another's? And I understand the concept that they're trying to communicate, but that's to me like saying, you know, why would I go see a doctor when I'm sick, and why can't I just go see an architect for it? Like, some people just have more expertise in certain areas, and I'm not going to make it about stats or anything, but I think veteran players and people that generally understand the game more probably have a little bit better insight. And, you know, that's all I'm going to say about it. I don't know if that makes sense.
I'm not going to get into it just like he didn't, but I mean, this is a simple fact, okay? The game is like 80% mental, 20% kind of mechanical, if you want to call it mechanical, whatever it is, aiming and shooting, okay? The more you know about the game, the better you're going to do in the game. The more you know about the game, the more you understand the game. It's a pretty simple concept, okay? The game is not, you're going to pick it up 5,000 battles to learn how to play it. It's going to take you over 10,000 battles to learn how to play this game, because there's so many little things that go into it, okay? And a lot of the problems is, and I mean, I'll talk about my experience like very, very, very shortly, and I'll be quiet. And
if you guys think about it too, about these patch kits, if we were to decide to go along with it, us being the more experienced players had the most to gain out of it.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, you're going to give me more health.
Yeah, we would be able to utilize the more health more effectively, and other players that wouldn't be able to utilize it very effectively, we'd be able to capitalize dealing more damage. And yet we still, you know, came together and said no on this aspect, and we're not going to play, even though at least most of us, I feel like, we're not going to play.
Well, it's bad for the game in the long run.
It was bad for the game, yeah.
But I mean, back to kind of what I was saying is like, the problem is that I think a lot of people, like, when I first started playing this game, like, I'll be honest with you, like, I didn't even find out about the forums of WN8 or stats or anything literally until I had about, I think it was like 16,000 battles, okay? And to be honest with you, I didn't care. Okay, I didn't care how the game worked. I didn't care about this. And the thing is that when you start to understand the game, you start to get good at the game, you understand the maps, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you start to see what's wrong with the game, okay? And when you start to see what's wrong with the game is when you start to kind of not understand why these things don't get changed. Now, yes, it's a business and all those things, but everybody has a right to opinion, okay? But the thing is that as far as this game goes, it kind of makes it unique and separate from other games. Now, I don't play a lot of other games, but from what I can see and understand is that the more knowledge you know and the more you understand this game, the better you're going to do. It's kind of simple. So not to like say like this guy's opinion doesn't matter, but the reason why this guy does so good or he plays at this level is because he understands exactly what's going on with the game. I'll leave it at that, but I hope that makes sense.
You guys hear me? Hello?
Yeah, you. I think. Sorry, on you go.
All right, I want to piggyback off Tubins here real quick. So go about this. So when Tubins, you said, you know, like all right, like, you know, most experienced players in this game that, you know, play comp or just, you know, play this game a lot, you know, we do take the time to understand this game. And I come from a StarCraft background. Blizzard actually employs people to play the game at a high level so that they can actually, like, you know, do correct balancing and just stuff in general. They employ people. They have employees of them who play the game at the highest level possible so that they can go to that person, you know, all right, would this change? How would this affect, you know, the various amounts of different skill levels? And it just seems to me like Wargaming doesn't have that. I mean, I know they, you know, they clearly play their game a little bit. I don't even think they don't have somebody where they can go to that plays this game at the highest level possible or close to it, where they can go and say, like, all right, well, we might implement this. How do you think this will trickle down from the very top end to the low spectrum? And I think if you don't have that, then you need to be reaching out to the players that do have that experience and that skill level. And it doesn't seem that Wargaming is doing that right now,
But
if that makes sense.
Bungie did the same thing for the Halos, and 343 Industries that did the same thing for Halo 5s. They employed the best players at that game and took their feedback seriously.
Exactly, yeah. And when Wargaming doesn't have that, I mean, I know they don't have that 100%. They do not have an employee that can play the game at the highest level possible or even close to it. And when you don't have that, you should be reaching out to the people that do, so that you can gather information on, you know, future stuff. You know what I mean?
I'd like to add a touch on that too.
Go ahead, Pat.
My experience, and this is just in general terms, but my experience talking to various Wargaming employees that we've had contact with as WCL and some non-WCL related stuff, personal communications with some of the employees. It's become clear to me as an older person who's been in plenty of businesses, and I see how businesses work, that wargaming has a bit of a problem, and this is a common thing among large companies, of over-compartmentalization. It's just, you know, heads up, if you're listening Wargaming, it's something to take a look at. I think perhaps when you're planning your development schedule, that some of your cards are kept a little too close to your chest, right? That maybe you need to open up on certain things that may affect the game in the ways that we're talking about, and get that feedback at an earlier stage in your processing. And you could have, I think if you did more of that, you would avoid a lot more of these landmines.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up the two things from that's been previously said. First, from Audacity, I've been saying to quite a lot of people in this game now for at least a number of months, possibly a year or so, that if you look at other games, say, I'll pick Overwatch, for example. I was playing that earlier today. That game is balanced based on how professional players do and high-end players do. If one character is too powerful, and they're seeing that in the numbers from the Grandmaster point of view, they will tone them down, and they'll let that filter down regardless of how it affects the main bulk of the player base. And I think if you were to put that analogy into tanks, a World of Tanks, if you have, I don't know, let's say pick KOODER, you're in a Death Star, and you pick somebody that is literally just free XP'd all the way up to the Death Star, right? And Wargaming, all they do is look at the stats of like, oh, the Death Star seems balanced now, right? But in reality, if you put somebody who knows the mechanics of that tank with its ridiculous pen on its premium ammo up against Joe Bloggs again, no wonder the average is it's an average tank, because KOODER may be getting a Top Gun in it with 10,000 plus damage, whereas that guy is getting one shot off and then getting killed immediately. And if they were to look at the top 5-10% of players and let them not necessarily test the game, but get feedback on ideas and tanks and mechanics already in the game, then they could roll that out and just see how that improves the game. But at this stage, there's so many tanks and there's so many moving parts to this game that would be quite a monumental effort, I think, at this point.
I agree, and I don't want to sound like an elite. Sorry, Cooter. I don't want to sound like an elitist, douchebag. But I mean, you look at other extremely successful
you the bits, man. You the bomb,
games
bro.
just for the casual player. Not only that, and for
didn't get the dunk in the cup. They'll be there for
the
next time.
competitive scene as well. I mean, look at
Thank
League.
you, man. Appreciate it.
They have employees that freaking could probably play in these tournaments and win some tournaments. You know what I mean? I mean, Heroes of the Storm, like I said, Blizzard, they literally have employees for every game that they have, competitive and casual wise, that play the game at the highest level just to understand those mechanics. And like I said, Wargaming just doesn't have that. And then I don't want to sound like one opinion matters more than another person's, but to say it's kind of true. I mean, like I said, look at BR. I mean, the guy's got 40,000 battles in this game. He absolutely loves this game. He clearly understands all the game mechanics. Like, pick his brain a little bit, dude. I mean, he loves the game so much. He enjoys it so much. He plays it that much. I mean, like, I'm sorry, but his opinion is going to matter more than someone who just plays on the weekends. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't want to sound like but it's true.
Maybe not.
Well, I wanted to play devil's advocate here a little bit. I think we're all accurate in what we're talking about from a game standpoint, like balancing a game, introducing updates and all that stuff. But we talked about this a little bit in the beginning, is Wargaming's running a business. And so I'm curious to see, or I'm curious to know, I'd be curious to know, instead of looking at the top 10% of players as far as skill-wise or experience-wise, I wonder if they're breaking up these groups into dollars spent per time played or something like that, or total dollars spent per player.
That's a lot of.
We'll never know that, dude,
it's kind of hard to speculate on something like that, because that's really high speculation,
I'm not curious on the actual number. My point that I'm trying to make is that's one of the only reasons it would make sense to me that they would say things like, we don't want to take away a player's favorite tank, or we don't want to balance teams like PC. A whole
can of worms there, buddy.
Well, he's got some valid points, though. I mean, from just the dollars and cents, we know that Wargaming has a monetization crew, whether it's one or multiple individuals, we don't know. And we know that obviously the owners of the company want to make a profit, but this kind of goes into the whole long-term versus short-term gain thing. And this is a conversation I've actually had with some of the wargaming people as well. In fact, we were in a meeting with Chowder Keg the moment that bulletin went up for the June overview, and within minutes, we just stopped and we said, Chowder, do you know that this has just gone up? Yeah. Well, here's what you're going to have happen, and we told them about what the patch kits and the Valkyria Chronicles tanks, and we said, and this is what the community is going to say, and just be careful. Make sure your bosses know that you may be burning some long-term bridges to gain some short-term profit here, and that's a huge economics discussion that would take 3 hours to go through.
Yeah,
we could talk about that stuff for a day, 24 hours.
But I think all the points that you guys were saying about other games, the thing is, like, I really kind of only play tanks and casually play Smite. You know what I'm saying? But like you mentioned with whatever it is, StarCraft or Warcraft or whatever you were talking about, and the other guy was talking about Overwatch, is that literally Smite does the same thing. What they do is they take the numbers off the best players. Okay, they take those numbers of characters, and every 2 weeks, literally every single 2 weeks, they balance the game, and it's to keep people wanting to play it. Now the thing is, when you come into a balanced game, okay, you never like when you load up a game of World of Tanks and there's a 5-man Death Star platoon. If it's on an open map, you're like, yeah, it's okay. But you get Himmelsdorf with that, you don't even want to play the game. Okay, other games, no matter what map you're on, or what characters, or what tanks, or whatever they play on the other side, the more everything is kind of even, the more intriguing it is. And it also pulls, and I don't know if this is true, and don't quote me on this, but this is just me thinking off the top of my head. The more balanced a game is, the more better players are going to want to play it. Now, on the flip side, you don't know how casual or other players, want that. I mean, maybe a Death Star is good for a casual player. He throws $60 at the tank. He gets this OP thing that, shoots one-shots tanks. Maybe he does that, one of every 3 games, and he's happy with that, But in the long run, you have to, and like that, I think this is what Pat getting at, you need to find a way to keep bringing in new people, but you need to keep the old people there. And judging, and this is just me, I don't have spreadsheets, I don't have numbers or anything, but judging by how long I've been playing this game, and I pretty much always play it, the numbers of the servers don't really seem to fluctuate too much. So maybe they kind of go down a little bit, and then maybe they kind of come up, but it never really seems like we're going from, you know, let's say on a Saturday at 6 o'clock, maybe there's 8,000 on the East. Well, there's always 8,000. There's never 9. There's never 10. So the game doesn't really seem to be, in my opinion, necessarily growing. So it seems to be like all the people that are leaving that are getting tired of it are going to leave, and then new people are going to come, and it's kind of a revolving door. And you would like to see, whether it's any game or it's any business, you always want to see it growing. And I don't feel like that is necessarily happening.
There's one thing to take into account. And with the PS4 growth, we're now at a point where we have 60% Xbox, 40% PS4. And so if the Xbox server population has stayed the same, that means the overall player base, for as far as their financing goes, has increased by about 60%.
But at the same time, we also are seeing numbers being pulled. This would be the about ready to talk about a graph that I sent to Matt.
Say that again, Pat.
One that was posted on Reddit showing that the player base overall is actually shrinking.
Hello?
Can you hear us, man? I think his server might be dying. Might have been what happened to me the other day.
It just crashed out.
Yeah, that happens. If he hard restarts Discord, it should fix it. It fixed it for me.
I was just looking at the talking points here. I think we're sort of talking about things that may be in the next section. Don't know if we want to maybe have a look at more what the boycott is and what, like, the effect on the community and stuff, because it certainly has been divisive, especially if you look at like the Facebook groups.
Yeah. The oh shit, I forgot what I was gonna say. Got distracted.
No, I agree
with you,
but I do like the. I mean, like, I agree we should stay on topic, but I do like how, you know, it kind of like flows into other stuff. I mean, I just like how we're.
I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree.
There's a lot of overlap too.
Yeah, there is so much that we could discuss. Like I don't mind doing this like all night personally. I could care less. I just wanted, for the people that wanted to tune into the meeting, the people that are here coming for a specific reason, I want to get those points out of the way first. Before we touch on like a lot of other things. But we can like talk like till we're blue in the face, you know, about different things that like who might have a concern with what and stuff like that. I have no problem doing that whatsoever. So,
I understand it. I'm quite happy for that. I'm quite happy just to say, yeah, I'm just thinking that it might be good to run on the structure and then at the end just basically throw hell to the wind and just basically then ramble on about our own anecdotes or problems or wants and needs.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, well, should we let's touch bases back on the community health, like, or population health, I guess is more accurate, like later on, and we can touch. I have that graph that he was talking about up, so we can look at that stuff when we get around to it. We started this on the boycott. We got like way off, but we talked about, like, you know, our different reasons for the boycott and stuff like that, and I think that we pretty much have beaten that to like the bush too. Like, you know, I think unless there's anything else that someone wants to touch on when it comes to the boycott, or can we move on with that?
I think that's a hammered nail, sir.
There is one thing I think we need to touch on, and it's how toxic it became between both sections of both sides.
Are you referring to when Pain God posted?
No. I'm just talking about from like the social media point of view. I saw. I think that I joined the boycott based on the idea that it was going to be, from my mind, good for the community, a good thing to get our voices heard. But I saw on Facebook loads of threats and allegations and frustrations from people in the boycott talking to people who weren't in the boycott and basically demeaning them and trying to force their hand to come into the boycott, which is completely wrong. If anybody's watching here, that just should not have happened. And the vice versa is true. Anybody who wasn't in the boycott should not be calling people in the boycott names. They should be constructively talking to them and discussing things rather than just throwing abuse at them, basically. I think that's just something just to make clear that the boycott wasn't to.
Well, I mean that's all nice and dandy, dude. This is the internet. It's gonna happen.
That's a common.
I know it's gonna happen, but I think it's just it's still something to make clear because it is a community, and we are trying to make the best of the community.
Yeah, I think you're touching on a fundamental problem with social media, man. People get
I was gonna say that's like one of the reasons why I left Facebook, in general, and stopped using that site. But I think that's like, overall, from what I saw with people talking either in the forums and stuff like that, like, yes, there's some people that wanted to see the test at least go through and like all this different stuff. But I think overall people were pretty respectful to each other. I heard about the Facebook group thing as well. And there's really not much. That stuff will kind of happen, like, regardless of what's going on, because somebody will say something to somebody else, and then they'll get fired up. And, I mean, like, just look at, like, honestly, just look at, like, the end of every WCL season, right? Somebody gets upset because they, like, lost a match, and then there's, like, all of a sudden there's, like, infighting going on for about 48 hours. That happens every season. That happens with everything. That happens whenever there's two sides of something, each one's trying to be the side that's face up, not the side that's face down in the concrete, right? So it's just like, this is how it always works with the coin. But, all right. Let's move on to the community poll, which Ace posted the other day. Was that yesterday? It was directly yesterday.
Yeah. Can I go? I'm running short on time here, so if I can, I'd like to give just a couple comments on that before I have to sign out. Right. One thing that really impressed me, just as a general overview of the poll, is there really weren't any particular items on the list that were just runaway favorites, right? It was really pretty, but yes, there were some that were more than others, but they were pretty well spread out. So my kind of gut takeaway from this is that Wargaming should probably use this as a brainstorm list, ideas to look more closely into. There are some of them that I think we could probably all agree are in need of attention, especially when it comes to balancing issues. We've talked about balancing a little bit earlier in our discussion. But there are other things on here that while they made the list, would definitely, I think if we took a vote amongst all of us, be split as to whether or not it would actually be of benefit. So, and some of it's just purely cosmetic as well, right? Like national crew voices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of just my overview, is don't take this list as a hard and fast, all of the people that are involved in this are in agreement, because we're not. Simple as that.
Yeah, when I was discussing with... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I agree with you, Pat. I think a lot of it is more underlined than that. Like, since we have so many diverse opinions on, what we need fixed, and I think that kind of speaks to the game state right now as a whole. I think there's a lot of problems with this game. There's a lot of good things, but I think there's a lot of different problems that affect a lot of different people that need to be looked at as a whole. You know what I mean? Like you said, there's not one or two runaway options where, it's a quick fix and, most of the community will be fine. There's, like you said, there's nothing ran away. So I think that speaks more to fundamentally that there's a lot of things that, not happy with at the game right now. And I think we're, possibly need to start looking at that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. And I think if we had a secondary poll for each one of these to rate each idea kind of on a scale of 1 to 10 of its importance level, we would find that some of these are really a 1 or a 2, right? They're novelties, nice little fun stuff to add, might add a couple extra bucks to Wargaming's pocket through the sale of, customized stuff for the vehicles or whatever. But there are other things on this list that are pretty important, like balance, right? No, maybe the T1 E5's cupola isn't a 10, but the idea of balance in general absolutely is going to be up there as a 9 or a 10, in importance. And so, that's kind of the way I'd look at it, is kind of go down each one and just how important is each one? How high of a priority should it be?
Yeah, that's one reason when me and Ace were discussing the poll and kind of setting up a rough draft for it stuff. Actually, let me pull it up here so people in the chat know what we're talking about. Give me 1 second. There we go. We set it up in categories and only set a limited number of choices because we didn't want everyone to just be like yup, and just everything's checked off, and so it's all pretty much balanced. We wanted to get a choice, so because ultimately, guys, here's even if everything here had 1 million votes, the entire player base of the community voted for every single thing on this list, the real possibility of Wargaming implementing every single thing on this list is just unrealistic because it takes forever to make a game. Have you ever watched the credits on a game before and actually watched the full credits of a game and you're watching it, you ate through 6 bags of popcorn, had a full course meal, slept for a little bit, had a nap, and is still going? It's because it takes a lot to make a game. It takes forever to make a game. It takes a very, very long time to do anything in the game. I can think of 100 things that you would have to do just to add a new species of grass into the game, that's why we kind of set it up like this, is to try seeing what the community's priorities were overall, and not because everybody can agree on basically everything here for the most part, I'm sure. So it's more of well, what's most important to you personally, which is why we set up a limited number of choices for that. And realistically, not all of this can be done to begin with, at least not in a reasonable time frame for what the community would expect it to be done. And so that's just kind of why it's set up like this, for anyone that's wondering.
Yeah.
I'll just touch on a little bit on this balance changes, this first part of it. Back to my cousin who just started playing the game. One of the first tanks I told him to get was go down the E5 line. And he was like, is that a good tank? I said, just go down the E5 line, don't question, just get it. And when he grinded the line, he says all the time, he's like, this tank is so easy to play.
Sorry about that, guys. I forgot to resume.
This guy only has 5,000 battles, and he's already
able
to identify how easy that tank is to play. The second thing that he's said over and over again, and it causes him to quit playing. And in my opinion, I'll just speak for myself, one of the most frustrating things about this game is artillery. He'll quit playing because of artillery, and he noticed that when he was in his tier 3s and 4s. And the other thing was the waffle. He when he first got to tier 10 or 9-10, it took him his first encounter to run into that tank before he said that tank is broken.
Okay, well, while we're on artillery, now there's no way in hell that I'm ever going to regrind lines, so I do not play PC at all, so I am not familiar with this arty wipe, or this whole arty nerf stun system or anything like that. If they implemented that, do you think that would change people's minds towards artillery, or what is actually fix the problem that
I've played a little, because I really played a little bit of it,
so,
and it's still arty's still arty. I honestly don't think it'll change a lot of people's minds. I think it's a good step in the right direction for PC, but like I said, I think arty is such a taboo subject right now that I think outside of a mass change or even more drastic than what PC did or direct removal of the game, I think it's just kind of no matter what you do, arty's arty. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, arty's arty, but the new system, if you just implemented the new system, the stun mechanics, without the complementary reusable consumables, then I think it would be just as bad. But since you can recharge your consumables, because you can use your repair kits to get rid of the stun mechanics, like Pat just said, I think it's a step in the right direction. But I don't know about you guys, but there's nothing worse than being shot by an invisible tank and going straight back to the garage. I mean, that's just me.
It's the worst, dude. But I mean, I've never played PC. I don't know if the stun mechanic would be more annoying or not annoying. You know, I mean, the kind of person I am, if I kept getting stunned, I would just be like, kill me already. I can't deal with this. I don't know. I mean, I really think the thing is that, you know, elephant in the room, let's be realistic. What is the most played Artie? There's a reason why it's the most played Artie. Okay, I really think, and this drives me crazy, and I just really can't wrap my head around it. Okay, now I do hate Artie. Okay, don't get me wrong. Now there's a flip side of this. Okay, Artie, I do, believe it or not, I feel like it has a place in the game. Okay, not in the state it is. It's a bad mechanic. I mean, like, there is no reason why I should be in a tier 10 heavy tank or a tier 10 medium tank and risk getting one-shotted by a tier 8 in back of the map. It just logically doesn't make sense to me. Okay, that's just me. But I really think they need to start. Okay, now this goes with any kind of tank or any class. Okay, if all the players are flocking to something, okay, and it is by far the most popular tank played, there is a reason for that. Okay, which probably means the tank needs to be reworked, nerfed, buffed, whatever. Well, actually not buffed if they're playing it, but
oh god, don't mention that.
Yeah, well, I
can buff it. Go for it.
Yeah,
just kidding.
The tank needs to be reworked. I mean, like I said before, now that you can just click X over people, I challenge you guys, do this. Anybody listening to me, okay? When you get done with a battle, okay, click on the guy who's on your team or on the other team who's playing the M55. And about half the time, when you click on his name and you hit X in the after report screen, his most played tank is the M55. I'm not joking with you. It will happen.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of touching on this earlier. They have flat out said they're not going to remove people's favorite tank, and that's why I was getting it. I wonder how they break out. They say that they look at data. And
that must be why the 4202 got removed, huh?
Yeah,
well,
they don't remove
saying.
people's favorite tanks, so that can get removed, but they can't remove the waffle because it's a favorite.
All right, we'll get to that stuff. Let's stick with, like, that's next, all of that kind of thing. So let's stick with Artie for now.
You kind of say favorite tanks, and I think, like, you guys touched on this before, and this is just the reality of the thing. Okay, most people who play this game are not going to be that good at it. Okay, so you have to kind of find a balance when you're looking at data, and I don't work for them. I don't know what their data is, but this is common sense. Okay. The more people that play the tank, the lower the number is going to be. So you kind of have to find a percentage to bring that number up, okay? Now, there's a thing that they don't seem to do, okay? Now, maybe this is money. I don't really think so. I don't really know. But people are going to flock to tanks, okay? There's a reason why tanks really, when you play tier 10, don't get played. Like, do you see 121s? Do you see 113s? Do you see 50Bs? Do you see playing like, you know, tier 9 German Arties and the other tier 9 Arties? Yeah, once in a blue moon. But the fact is that people are playing the same tanks over and over again, and there's a reason for that. Okay, and it's a pretty self-explanatory reason. But those things kind of need to be changed. I mean, maybe some people are happy playing the same tank. I'm not really that kind of person. I like to get a variety when I play. Maybe people like to log on and play 20 battles in the same fucking tank and then get off. I don't really know. But those things that Wargaming really needs to look is that when a tank becomes super popular and people are always playing it, there's a reason for that. And that really needs to kind of be dumbed down. In my opinion, needs to be dumbed down. But neither here nor there. But I mean, this tier 9 M55 that has been an ongoing problem since I started playing this game. Okay, and they've never touched it. And I don't know if that's they feel like maybe they would lose too many players. Same kind of thing with the Death Star thing. I mean, I don't really know. But how many players are you losing because they don't want to keep getting bombed by the thing game after game? I mean, like, I run a clan of 55 people, okay? Now, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you this. I've had a number of guys that have just stopped playing this game or they have to take breaks because they can't stand getting bombed by Artie. Now, also on the gameplay factor, what do? I mean, you look at the maps. Really where you want to control is where you're going to get hit by Artie. So you got two choices. Okay, either you take the risk of getting hit or you sit in the back. Now, if you sit in the back, yeah, you don't get hit by Artie. Now, what happens if you sit in the back? Creates two things. Okay, one, you're not really going to be enjoying the game sitting in a bush for 8 minutes. At least I'm not. Or you're gonna everybody around you. I mean, how many people stop playing this game because their green teams are so awful game after game after game after game that they just get off. Okay, and that's all kind of contributed to the same kind of thing. Okay, so
Yeah, because
I
already
really think
punishes
that
the
they should
aggressive
start
players.
with that. No, this will be my last thing. I really think that they should start with that tank and really try to rework it. I'm not saying completely gut the thing. I'm saying try to make it on par with the other ones. And I don't mean buff the other ones. I mean, make it a little bit on par and, understand that it gets annoying when you're getting bombed by the same thing over and over and over again. And it's somewhat broken. I mean, you ever say, okay, he's got 450 health. That's great. I mean, he could have 2 health. I don't see the guy anyway. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
it doesn't really make a difference. I mean, but that's just my 2 cents on it. I really think Wargames should start with that tank and see if it attracts. Maybe it won't go over good at first. I don't really know, but I think in the long run, it might keep people around a little bit more. If you weren't going to sit back to the garage.
Well,
Right
well, I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate, and I'm not arguing, but we talked about it already. There's a lot of people that play this game casually, and I mean, I think everyone can agree most people are addicted to these big yellow numbers that pop up. That's why people play the Death Star, and that's why people that play Artie, just hit that guy for 2,000. And I think you're right. It'd be good for mechanic for the game in general, but I don't know how they're going to get rid of it or rework it without affecting their revenue. I mean, I'm just going to ask, have you ever played artillery? Have you ever ground an artillery line?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
When I first started playing the game, all I did was play Artie and TD. So yeah, I'm grounded.
Yeah. Okay. So you know that you don't get as much experience per battle. It's harder to grind an artillery line than any other line. And I think that's on purpose because it takes so long to get people to use free XP or whatever, to spend money on those things. And I think it's a bigger percentage than we would guess about how many casual players just only play artillery. Like you said, click X and see how many games they've played. Man, I don't see a company that's interested in growing their revenue numbers. That's a hard sell.
Yeah, it's absolutely a hard sell. That's kind of the thing, and that's kind of why I always thought that the Death Star, Heshpin and the M55 has never been nerfed. But it goes back to kind of what Pat touched on before, is that you kind of need to find a balance.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay?
I just want you to know I'm on your side. If anything, if I could vote on one thing, I got one vote to change anything about this game, it would be the artillery mechanic. It's the most frustrating.
But I mean, back to the balance thing. I mean, here's the thing: is that these are 2 things that you'll never know. You'll never know how many people would stop playing if you fixed it, but you also never know how many people would keep playing. Okay, so the only way to know that is to try it. And this is back to before, kind of what I said before, is that every time I look at that server, who's playing on the server, it's always around the same number. So you got to start to figure out how to make that thing go up. Ideally for the thing of the game. I mean, if you're listening, I got 40,000 battles in this game. I run a big giant clan. This is my hobby. I go to work, I play this. I'm a loser. I play this. This is my hobby. I'm interested in keeping this hobby going. I enjoy it. It's something I put a lot of time into, a little bit of money into. It's something I've got relatively good at. I'm not really interested in seeing this game go away. So it depends, I mean, that's their call or kind of community call, but I mean, it's been an ongoing problem. So you got to really see how many people have stopped playing to do that. I mean, realistically, you look at the percentage of people playing Artie. Is it greater than other classes? Probably not even close. So fixing one tank, does it keep people playing or not? I mean, it all depends. I mean, there's a lot of problems, but if I had to vote, it would be kind of, as far as Artie goes and this game goes, I would really vote to kind of start there and see what the reaction is.
Yeah.
You know,
Viper, you had
I'm not
something that you
saying
wanted
gut
to say
the
earlier?
tank.
Yeah. I wanted to say that, like, you know, everyone knows that Artie punishes more than anybody else. Like, the closer you are to Artie, the more likely they are to hit you. And I feel like that's a mechanic that should be changed. I feel like Artie should be more accurate the further away that a tank is.
I believe that's how the Conqueror gun carriage works, if the guy who plays Artie in my clan is to be believed.
Yeah, I think that the Conqueror gun carriage shoots its shell a lot higher than most other Arties of that tier 10, 9, and 8, which inherently makes it to where it's easier to shoot it. Like, since that gun is so inaccurate, but in general, you know, straight down on the targets further away just gives it a better chance to hit.
It's just an interesting mechanic that, say if you see a Conqueror gun carriage on the same team as an M53-55, you know, say if you're in a heavy tank, if you go up to the front line and you're, say, within close enough distance that the Conqueror gun carriage becomes sort of obsolete, you're putting yourself in the danger zone of you are the most spotted and most commonly seen tank on the battlefield at that point. So the M53-55 is going to start aiming your way.
Yeah.
Whereas,
let me just add something here.
Target, right?
So I mean, we can pretty much all agree, right, that Artie was put in to kind of like, I guess, punish slow gameplay and camping, right? I mean, that's basically what it's in there for. But how it works in 90% of games, it's the exact opposite. It makes games more campy. Like I said, medium tank trying to get some spots, you know, quote unquote, playing the game the right way, you know, fulfilling your role on the battlefield. Most of the time that Artie is going to start focusing you because you're the first one spotted or whatever. So, I mean, it's just a unique case where, like, it was put, quote unquote, put in the game for one to, you know, to help progress the game, but it does the exact opposite. It was put in the game to do. Does that make sense?
So that's
what it feels like. That's what it feels like.
That's why I propose that, like, I think the closer you are to the Artie, the less accurate it is, the less zoomed in its, you know, reticle is when it's fully zoomed even, and the more zoomed it is, the further away. In fact, I would imagine if you're close to the of its range, I feel like Artie should be so zoomed in that it cannot miss. To where then you spot someone that's that far away, like that Death Star Waffle way back there. If he does not move, you will hit him and you will pen him. And that would discourage the campers, or at least make them vulnerable so they don't just sit there being like, well, I'm so far away, it doesn't really matter.
So,
I mean,
like a default bloom size, where the default bloom is smaller the farther away from that kind of thing?
Artie, like, let's say you get within that 50-meter range, you're like you're a proxy spot distance. If you get within that of an Artie, it cannot shoot you now. It cannot aim its gun low enough to even hit you. And therefore, you got close enough.
How does it defend itself in that instance? I don't know if I agree with that part.
I don't know. In my opinion, the advantage of Artie is it doesn't have to be in the battle most of the game. So it gets all this time to be attempting to deal damage. And two, you finally get your prize in the Artie, right? And then or they just are ready with a gun that's so large that if you get touched by it, you're probably dead at this point in the game, you know, most likely. So, and it's super likely if they're smart, they're sitting in a position that they can't be targeted, and you probably have to come in the way of their gun and at least take a hit. And it's up to, do I have enough points to survive more than likely or not?
Yeah.
Do I feel lucky?
I don't know. I think that would make them develop bigger and bigger maps if you get more accurate at longer distances. And what are artillery players, just like now? What are they supposed to do on city maps
Well, then I would have to implement maybe like that they can't get put on some of those maps. I don't know, like,
and that's a lot of things would have to change. But I mean, it's a tough subject on how to fix it. But I mean,
or they could. Sorry, I have a good idea maybe. Or they could base it off how large the map is and have a ratio of the, like, okay, the map is 1 kilometer long, or the Himmelsdorf is only a half a kilometer long, or whatever. It bases their accuracy, their maximum and minimum accuracy and distance off of the ratio of how large the map is. So then it could correlate depending on the map they're put in.
I mean, that would work. It's so like make it super inaccurate, like, or like scale like really wildly. I think on like Pack Island, but Pack Island's just really weird anyway.
It would be an interesting conversation in Wargaming if they were to bring that in, and how they would present that in the profile of the tank screen. You know, accuracy is a set number for most tanks, but for artillery, it would then change to the scaling thing, like in the small maps it's this, in the large maps it's this. Yeah. And,
I mean, you could, in the gun stats, you could say that pretty easily. You know, like this is the base accuracy, like +1 or +0.01 accuracy per 10 meters or something silly.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's all scaled anyway. I mean, penetration that you see on the screen is not penetration at 500 meters. Accuracy is not the same either. I mean, all accuracy and penetration mechanics scale at distance.
But if you, I mean, I'm not agreeing with the system of having a different reticule size, basically, for a different size map. But what if the system were to be that if the other player, if the artillery cannot shoot anything that's really close to it, have it like a timed fuse shell that if the shell has to travel a certain distance before it can set its fuse, in that sense, that it can explode.
I mean, that's a real world mechanic, so that would make sense.
I think Foch put out a video maybe a year ago now, maybe 6 months ago or so, and one of the changes he was talking about, or one of the balance changes for artillery you could talk about was, and this would help like light tanks charging them down, because how often have you seen a light tank go after an artillery and the artillery's just turned and smashed it? You know, and that doesn't seem fair because the light tank has broken through the line and should be able to then take the artillery most of the time. But quite a lot of the time you see it is like, oh crap, this artillery's going to get it. But one of the things he was talking about was that there's a kind of similar to the fuse, but like basically as soon as you pull the trigger in artillery, there is a timer before it fires the shell. So it does make it, it does mean that you have more time to maneuver yourself out of the way of the shells. It punishes people who hard camp, but it helps people who go, oh god, artillery may be aiming at me, let's get out of here. Gives you a little bit extra time to do that.
It is a lot of things. I mean, I had a guy on my clan, he thinks there should be like, things that come out of the art and then planted into the ground that would take, 3 seconds to each ore, where you'd be planted like, and they couldn't move.
Depth charges.
But, I mean, there's a million things, but I think for the game, I think the easiest thing, like all those things. I mean, I don't know. I don't make video games, but I really think at this state, they should just try to dim them down a little bit and see how that goes over. Well, and then maybe, crazy things in the future.
We all can agree that the 53-55 is the most overpowered artillery, and that there is something that has to be done, but there is a lot of ways that they can do it. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk, like, one thing that I kind of thought about with, like, Dive Viper's, like, idea is, like, yes, it's a good idea, but it comes back to, we can jump back, like, an hour and a half into this discussion. We talked about, like, introducing mechanics that completely change the core of, like, essentials of the game, where people just come back and they're like, what the actual hell just happened, what was the example you used? Like the map, somebody else had a different example. I don't remember what it was and stuff like that. So, I mean, like, even though that would be a good balance, then it comes down to, well, is that like a feasible balance? Because then we might just alienate everybody who's an artillery player at the same time. So I guess it's kind of like a give and take there. You got to find like a good compromise as to like what will make Arty still like feel like Arty for the players that are there, but also make it so that the game's fun and that we're not just like ruining everyone's day,
Yeah, they would have to limit out the light tank view range, or they'd have to figure out or the medium's view range, something to counteract.
But I mean, even if you dumb down one Arty even to start with, be real logistic, guys. There's a 25% RNG swing. Okay, the guy's still going to see the big numbers. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's still going to get that satisfaction. The only thing is he might not just get it, he's not going to get it as often. It's not like it's not. I don't think it would be completely game breaking. I just think it would help out a little bit. But that's just my 2 cents on it. I really just think so. I mean, that tank's been a problem since day one. So since I started playing, the tank's been a problem. Probably, when you can't shoot it back, I guess it gets more frustrating, creates a bigger problem.
Well, we're talking about balancing artillery. I mean, I'll just throw my opinion out there. I don't like the mechanic at all. The ability to get one shot by a tank at that high of a level, 2 tiers below you, fundamentally doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I would be for something like the PC changes. I mean, the stun thing, I just don't know how it's going to work. I wish they would super test it properly and figure it out.
Well, we'll get to testing in a second because I do want to. I have different ideas because we talked about different examples for testing as well. We'll talk about that soon. As for the stun, so as far as those stun things, I'm aware is that's something that would probably be better to be added if they decide they also want to add the reusable consumables thing. Is that what somebody said earlier? Like that would kind of go hand in hand. Like
that's what I mentioned because I don't remember how long the stun mechanic lasts. I think it lasts for 20 or 30 seconds, but you can use your kit instantly and get rid of it. So it kind of times it. If you can recharge your kit every 90 seconds and an artillery shoots every 40 seconds or so, there's a good chance you'll be able to repair out of it. But I think without the reusable kits, that would almost be worse in my opinion. I couldn't imagine getting stunned in place for 20, 30 seconds, and then 10 seconds later another shell comes in and I can't move again.
Does it actually stop your tank dead, or does it not just reduce your crew's capability so it will make you slower, reload slower?
It's about the equivalent of having close to a 50% trained crew at that point.
Oh, right. That's not horrible. That's not the end of the world. It's just, it sucks,
the end of the world, but
it's not like it's not like getting tracked every time you get shot every 5 seconds.
Well, you'll get tracked, and then your crew can't repair as fast, so you're basically in the same spot. I mean, it all compounds.
Okay.
That's
something.
I think the reusable kits would be a good change regardless. I mean, even without the artillery change, it would be a good add-in.
Yeah, for sure. Well, have we kind of like talked? Are we like everyone kind of satisfied with the already talk? Kind of like talk that one.
Yeah, it should be removed from the game,
significantly. Right? Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I think you can carry on.
Okay, so the next thing would be like stuff like the waffle, more balancing stuff. So let's like address TDs first, because I guess power creep tanks. I'm not really too familiar with those. I never play my 50B because I fucking hate it. So it's only the one thing that I'll drop the F-bomb on here because I hate that. I just hate that tank. So I have no idea just like how terrible it is in terms of balance towards other tanks, because I just simply don't play it. So, but power creep tanks, we have the Panther 50B and the 113 here. I don't know if there's other ones that you guys have in mind. As for telling wargaming, like, hey, these need to be changed. They need to be more specific. That's kind of what I was talking with Ace about too. If like we were going to talk about these particular tanks and like why and stuff like that, you kind of have to talk whenever you're suggesting something to somebody. You have to suggest it in a respectful manner while also assuming that they're completely ignorant of the topic, because they might think something's completely okay, and not just completely miss like maybe a certain concept that's just completely broken and obvious to the other people, but maybe they just weren't looking in the right direction, So, like, what about these tanks in particular, or other tanks that are power creep that need to be fixed or buffed or nerfed or?
Well, it does. I was just going to say it does kind of say some of the aspects of the tanks on the poll itself, like the 113 with its DPM, for example. So. The information was put forward, but there is quite a few more tanks, I think, that have been power creeped that haven't been listed, for example.
Super Burgeoning is the first one that jumps to my mind.
Exactly.
Yeah. The specific example here, the 50B, I don't think is applicable right now because the Swedes have not been released, and all of those have like 12 degrees of gun depression and things like that. I don't think, this is my opinion, I don't think the 50B has been power creeped out at all at this point in the game. It's one of my favorite tanks. When the Swedes come out and they get all this crazy gun depression and they can really work hills, and it's another set of auto loaders, and the TVP did kind of come out, and I mean, it's one of my favorite tanks. I don't like saying it's overpowered, but I think that was the first introduction to the game that kind of saw, you know, some other medium tanks and stuff starting to get power creeped. At the tier 10, I'm talking specifically for this 50B example.
No, I understand. Well, that's kind of the feedback that the devs need, you know, because like we can vote for that all day. It has 263 votes right now, and so it says aim time for the 50B and DPM for the 113, nothing for the Panther. So that for them, like, you know, statistically speaking, maybe it's like perfectly good. I don't know what their stats are, so I don't know what they're looking at, and like if they know specifically this, but like when we were explaining to them that X tank needs these changes, we need to explain like why, or it's like, you know, X tank needs to be changed. It's like, all right, well, why does it need to be changed? What's wrong with it? Like, you know, what's the problem here? That's what needs to get explained and go into depth more for that particular thing.
The 50B, it would be like, quote unquote, it would be nice to have an aim time buff, but I don't think a half-second aim time buff. Like, I think the gun depression buffs when the Swedes came in is more important than an aim time buff. I don't know. I play the 50B a lot. I don't see an aim time buff being that necessary. It'd be nice. Don't get me wrong. It's one of my favorite tanks. Yeah, buff it. Great. But I don't think it is necessary. I play the 57 heavy too. That's probably its most similar type tank. And, you know, they're different tanks, but I think their different strengths make up for, you know, cause of back. I don't know. What do you guys think? I don't think.
I mean, I can't. I just got the 50B. I'm talking about maybe I got like 30 battles into it. Two sides to it. T57 heavy, I would think. Now this is just me. Now 30 battles. I obviously probably don't have the complete grasp of the tank. But the thing that T57 has over the 50B is when it comes to the kind of TDs that we have and the arty that we have and the Death Star pin that we have, T57 heavy I think can handle that a lot better. And I think that's where the 50B kind of lacks as far as our meta goes. But I completely 100% agree with you. You buff the aim time a little bit, yeah, it'd be nice. But is it going to completely change the tank? I don't think so. I mean,
yeah.
It's not like me sitting there waiting, you know, a half a second to aim it is going to, you know, give me 1,000 more damage. It's realistically not. Maybe, you know, here and there. But I think the 50B, I think the meta that we have is a little bit outclassed. I mean, you might play it very, very well, and I might end up playing it very, very well after a little bit getting the hang of it. But I think with the no armor kind of big giant, I call it the big giant bobblehead, kind of suffers a little bit with the kind of arty and the TDs that we have in this game. But that's just my 2 cents. You know, I haven't played the tank enough to really give you an honest opinion. But when it comes to not having a little tiny bit of armor with that big giant kind of target, I think it really suffers when you lose all that health.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the argument can be made that because it doesn't have the turret armor, that a faster aim time would reduce your exposure time. Now, I hate to cuss like this, but that's one reason why I don't like the bad chat. I don't like the bad chat because it just doesn't fit my playstyle. The exposure time for it's too long. Like the 57 heavy has an armor advantage and it has a cycle time advantage, and you don't have to expose yourself so long, and you can take hits better. So I guess an aim time buff for the 50B would lessen your exposure time, but once again, I just don't think it needs it.
Well, either way, guys, I gotta take off from this. This ran a lot later than I thought it would. Definitely appreciate the invite, and I really hope
that's actually. Yeah, me too. I gotta jet out of here. My wife's gonna kill me. We gotta go to.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining, guys. Appreciate it very much. So,
good talking to you.
Yeah, appreciate it very much, so guys. All right. Well, just this is like a whole nother, like this is something that we could, this is like one of the things I'm sure we could talk about all night, power creep tanks. So this is probably something that can be, like it's currently in second place for the polling and the balance changes, which is why I wanted to touch on it a little bit. But just for me personally, I feel like it's a little bit vague for the devs to really be able to do anything with that information. They're like, all right, well, there's something wrong with these three particular tanks, and there's other things that need to be buffed, I guess, the players that the community's looking for, but what are they, and what's wrong with them? And so that's something that needs to be addressed, and we can make another post on that, maybe even like another poll or whatever, which ones you think is the one that needs it the most. But that's something that, if we have a community want the developers to touch these, then we need to explain like why, give them an objective view as to why this tank needs it. Because right now they're looking at it from an incredibly objective view because they have all the statistics for it. They know exactly how well it's doing relative to winning the matches, you know, and things like that. So it needs there needs to be an objective comment there saying exactly spelled out what is wrong with this tank and why it needs buffs or nerfs and stuff.
Well, one thing that I was hoping that would come through all of this was that rather than it being a completely one-way street, was that maybe Wargaming would open up a dialogue with us. Not just us, like the whole community, everyone involved in the game. So what they could do is if they said, right, okay, the community has spoken, they want to see buffs to tanks that have been power creeps, or nerfs to tank destroyers, or nerfs to army, or whatever, they can pick one of them. And what they can do is they can put up on the website a link to the forum and a link to a poll and just say, guys, we want you to tell us what you think is the worst about these tanks. And they just list similar to how Ace has done, and they just say vote on one or two aspects of them. And then they can get that feedback from us. They don't necessarily need to take it and use it, but they have it at their disposal. And I don't see why something like that hasn't actually come up before.
I think that comes down to kind of like what we talked to, like, you know, heavily involved in the community, because they do like these developer things where they do developer Q&As and stuff like that. And have you ever like read the chat? Like, people are always constantly screaming in that. And doing a super massive, like, doing a incredibly massive scale developer meeting talking about like balancing changes in general. Kind of the best relationship I can think of to what that would be like would be a couple of conversations I've had with different cops in Michigan. I asked them, you know, how's crime scenes and witnesses and stuff like that. They're like, you know, witness is really nice, 2's like really nice, 10's really nice, 100 is incredibly fucking awful. And that is because like the same guy is going to have 16 different colors sweater and stuff like that, and it's just going to be all over the place. And so having like when it comes to opinions, there is a like a fall off point to where it just gets drastically worse incredibly fast, depending on like the more people you have, exponentially worse the more people you add to that opinion base, just because of all the different fine-tuning, and no one can really agree on like, you know, one particular outcome, so to speak.
Yeah, okay, I can see what you mean. I hadn't really considered that.
Yeah, so I mean, if they did a poll such as the one kind of like how Ace is set up, where it's like, you know, pick, like, you know, there's a bunch of different suggestions, kind of like what you said like at the end there, then I could see that kind of like working more than like them just doing like a live talk, because that chat would just be like straight up cancer, like with the amount of people just throwing up suggestions and stuff.
You know, people saying, don't you dare nerf my effing tank or whatever.
Yeah, there'll be like contradicting statements all over the place, and so it's just, if they had a poll, then it would be like kind of silent, and people could like, you know, vote on like, these are the 3 things I think are most wrong with this tank or something like that. You know, it's whatever. But you were gonna say something, Viper? Sorry if I interrupted you.
Well, I think we can more easily move on to the tank destroyers, because there's a groundwork here. Like, most of what's happened with the stuff that we want implemented for TDs is already on the PC, and in my eyes, it works. You know, I don't see them, like, a lot of the times I've watched, you know, videos from Quickie Baby or whatever, and he references like the waffle and stuff. when it was in tier 10, and we all and then they seem okay with it now, like the way the TDs work there. And biggest argument against, you know, the waffle is, for the waffle specifically, it's his favorite tank. But then you can make the counter argument, then why'd you remove the 4202? That was still some people liked playing. And then, which is the general blanket nerf. Yeah, and the Awful Panther. And then the general blanket nerf to like 850 alpha to 750, or a view range nerf from like 400 down to 380, 390, or the Death Star's Hesh Pen nerf down to 230. It's they always bring up the fact that, like, well, tank destroyers are balanced 30 days.
Statistics.
Yeah, due to the statistics over the past 30 days, well, an average tier 10 TD didn't put up any more damage than an average tier 10 medium or heavy tank. And they don't get that play tank destroyers. Like, there's a lot higher numbers. Like, usually you coop in a game and half of each team will be TDs, you know, like, and then that means that there's going to be a lot more of the, you know, lesser skilled players playing in those tanks to counteract the higher skilled players, whereas most of medium tank players are the higher skilled players. There's a lot more higher skilled players that favor those tanks because they have a higher skill ceiling, allowing you to just perform better on average if you're good. And then that improves the statistics of the medium tanks, whereas the TD statistics are getting lowered. Everything I'm saying now has been explained to them numerous times when they've brought out their statistics, but
no,
it doesn't seem to ever get across to them that that's how it works, you know.
This is the TD thing, the TD thing and the waffle removal thing are, like, you know, when I referred to the boycott as kind of like the patch kits for the straw that broke the camel's back, like the blanket wide TD nerfs and the waffle is like the camel's back, you know. It's like that's the thing that I've heard most bitched about since 2014. Like, it's just like constant, like, you know, like literally since the waffle was added to the game, like people are like, Dan's game, this shit's being removed in 6 months, or like on PC, like why?
Yeah, that was funny.
You know?
It was funny because the waffle, along with the 57 heavy, was the first two autoloaders added, and literally just a few months after the waffle was added, it was removed from the PC. And when the waffle was added on our version of the game, it had already been nerfed to a 5-round magazine on PC. So it's those are like the two big things that I think people, just from my experience, what I've heard most of people complaining about this game is those two things. And so, and it shows, like, it's the removed waffle isn't super high up there on this poll, but the rebalance of tank destroyers is #1 on this poll. So with 283 votes, you know, that's right now the population of NA West server. So, like,
there seems to be a weird mixed messaging when it comes to buffs and nerfs, because, like, as you were sort of getting on to, like, you see the WrathofAchilles removed on PC, so we're already going, right, well, it's going to be disappearing for us. And we see balance changes, say 5-6 months ago on PC, that we're going, right, they are coming up. One of the strange things is, like, I've never played it myself, but why was the Fosh 1555 so broken, and yet the waffle wasn't on console? It kind of seems like I would rather walk out in front of a Fosh 1555 than a waffle. So why is it that one was nerfed when the other one is kept as is? You know, there seems to be an odd loss in translation there, really.
I can add to that one because I have the Fosh 155, and it's honestly one of my least favorite tank destroyers at tier 10.
I have it as well.
The Fosh series inherently, like, just has a really bad gun placement. Like, the gun is really low to the ground. You don't have any gun depression, so it's just a lot harder to get your gun in position. It's traversed left and right. It's very narrow.
And the shell.
And then you got to deal with the aim time is pretty long, and then
interclip reload is long.
Load, it's a big, huge thing. I mean, you can get, it's like only auto-loading tank in the game currently that you can run out in front of and almost always make it away before he fires the second shot.
So why was that nerfed? That's really what
I
I'm.
honestly don't know. Like but when I saw the nerfs for it, I was so surprised. They nerfed its alpha damage. They nerfed its. Did they nerf its view range at all? I can't remember.
They nerfed
but
it for sniping because wasn't it like a really highly accurate like sniper rifle time? I don't have.
it
one,
had
so I
high
don't know,
accuracy, but
It wasn't waffle accurate though, which is in effect a sniper.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I mean the
And,
waffle should be
was
gone,
assassin.
so like, I don't know.
There's a lot of balances as far as TDs are concerned that are just off.
I just kind of wonder why. If you just look at PC, the 15555 was nerfed, I think, before the 850 to 750 nerf, I think, and that one hasn't translated along. So I'm wondering if Foch, like on console, was the Foch 1555 performing so amazingly that they went right, it needs nerfed, or did they just look at the PC patch notes and go, all right, okay, put that in?
I think they went
That's
PC
the thing.
patch notes.
Like sometimes it seems that wargaming does do that. Like, oh, that's what PC did. So let's do it for console as well. And sometimes they just completely disregard it. There's no one-sided to it.
It does often seem like they're afraid to be too similar to the PC, and they're trying to separate themselves as if to kind of protect their need for an existence of a development team there. But then other things, they just they take the easy route and just copy and paste.
It seems like some things like they just get straight up like ordered to like change, from like main or from like the main office or whatever. It's just like, yo, this is like been shown on PC that this is a really big problem. It may not be a problem on console because even though they're really similar games in pretty much every aspect, there is like certain intricacies that are like very different because of controller versus mouse or just because of the limitations of the consoles to begin with, So I don't know. That's just like one thing I've kind of felt about certain things.
The one thing that the PC definitely has an advantage of us on is the just the existence of the sandbox server and the ability to test all of these new changes to the game without trying to introduce patch kits to the live server. That's just a huge advantage on us as far as testing and changing the game mechanics.
The test server over there also has its negative sides because of the unlimited economy, if you want to call it that. You also see a lot more people spending a lot more gold than they would on the regular server, which changes a lot of metas.
Another thing about TDs, do you guys? He also has in parentheses here the hash reduced pen on the 183, which I agree with. I love my Death Star, but it's kind of ridiculous. So that's one reason I do love it. I'm sorry?
Especially with the armor buff that I got.
Yeah, like it's I mean, like I don't think there shouldn't be any reason for somebody to carry only one type of round in a tank unless it's for a meme match, Like that's the reason you have 3 different ammo types is like for diversity of situational, shit. And only loading one kind of defeats the whole purpose, I think. So that's why you lower that a little bit. Yo, man, thank you for the biddies, bruh.
And yet, at the same time, we can look at the the Blitz game.
Thanks for the biddies again, man. Appreciate it very much. So easy
changes, leaps and bounds ahead of us. Doing balancing to power creep to premiums, doing changes to premium ammo, alpha and pin on standard ammo. Like they're seemingly actually listening to this kind of stuff and making changes, and they're a lot. I would assume a lot smaller, a lot newer group than what we have.
We assume that, but do we actually have numbers about how many players there are for the?
I mean, mobile games are huge, yeah. So that's a good point. Like, I don't know. I don't know. You'd have to ask Wargaming, like, just how many Blitz people are there. Like mobile games have a very high, like, surprisingly high player base. Because like everybody has a phone, regardless if you're console or PC.
It's a really low speed bump you gotta take before you can play it. Basically, I mean, everyone has a phone, and the whole deal that you need to do Blitz tablet normally, but it's easy to get into.
Yeah.
Would like to take some time to, at some point here, talk about testing, just in general before I have to head out. You know, we've been going for about 2 hours now.
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about testing next, because the rest of the stuff, I think we can fly through pretty fast, but we've been kind of pushing the testing talk back. So once we wrap up TDs here, we'll probably just move on to that, because I feel like that has to do with balancing too, you know? One thing that Ace sent me, he wanted me to make a point on, was his little note here for TD rebalancing, which is like a 850 alpha reduced to 750 alpha, just because like a medium tank can, if the medium tank's attacking you even with a clip or whatever, you have time to react to it. If a TD's attacking you, you know, you get just like 2-shot, like you can shoot and then like hide and then like come back when you're not looking or have fired and stuff like that. And that's I don't know how much I agree with that point, I guess, because that's kind of like the purpose of TDs, right? Is to be like heavy hitters. So, and there's generally supposed to be more lightly armored heavy hitters. And so, I mean, I don't know. I'm not like a alpha expert. I don't know the alphas in like every tank, so I don't really think I'm justified to really speak onto that topic.
Well, I think what he's getting at is the fact that you get punished so hard by getting shot by a tank destroyer, and you may not even done anything wrong. I mean, eventually you're gonna get spotted in the average game, especially if you're playing how you should probably be playing. And then, you know, the moment that you get spotted, someone probably sees you, and if it's a TD, if they hit you, you know, suddenly you've lost, you know, most of your HP. And I think that it also goes to the fact that, like, with just tier 9 and 10 specifically, TDs break one of the rules that have been there in tier pretty much 2 through 8. Tank destroyers always had disadvantage over heavies and medium tanks, but once you get to tier 9 and 10, that's gone. Like, now they equal out to mediums and heavies, and it just kind of depends on the tank you're playing in what the HP is at. And so, like, a lot of the balancing factors that were in place that gave, it's like, oh, okay, they had higher pen, higher damage per minute, or higher alpha, or maybe a combination of those. They always had lower HP, you know. And the few that didn't, like the AT-15, for example, it didn't have a lower HP, but it has a lot of other bad things, being super slow, being super large, you know, and having a relatively weak gun when it comes to like damage per shot. So it's like they kind of got rid of all those, like a lot of the weaknesses tank destroyers had, other than maybe not having turrets. Don't have turrets. I mean, the ones that do tend to, a lot of times you feel like that's why the Death Star is the way it is. I mean, I guess it doesn't have a fully rotational turret, but it can aim very wide, you know, with good armor, with still good health, like in general, just in terms of having health, you know, even though it's like, I guess you could say it is on a lower spectrum, but there's medium tanks that are lower than it, you know, and it just has a gun that can literally destroy any tier tank in the game in one shot, or very nearly do so. Yeah. So, I mean,
oh yeah, I can understand that. I could see like the HP thing being like a factor. I guess, like, you know, it kind of just turns into like a essentially like a light armored heavy tank, I guess, right?
Always take on a TD before. Like, I could, yeah, even though the TD had more damage per minute than me and higher alpha than me, well, I have more HP, so it balances out. So if we start shooting each other at the same time, it's going to be very close to when we'll kill each other. You know, we'll both kill each other relatively the same time because the HP disadvantage.
Mm.
Tier 9 and 10.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm not sure if there's anything else with TD rebalancing that you guys want to touch on. I feel like that subject has been like as old as time, basically. Like, you know, that's like the one thing that has been constantly complained about, or constantly, you know, analyzed for basically forever.
There is one aspect that I'd like to touch on it slightly, and that is the fact, if you look at the tier 8, the BL-10, it's a 152 millimeter shell. Then at tier 9, you have the objects 907, yeah, 907, or whatever. The tier 9
TD, the 704,
704, yeah, just different numbering, whatever. It's still a 152 millimeter caliber shell. And then at tier 10, it's still the same caliber for the 268. Or does it get bumped up to 3 millimeter? It's so close still, but at tier 8, it's 750. Tier 9, it's 750. But then with the roughly the same caliber, it's all of a sudden going up to 850. And that's with all the 155s as well. If you take a T95, it's 750 alpha.
That's
Bump
what
it up
somebody
to
in chat.
Tier 10, it's 850.
Yeah, you're talking about like via caliber, right?
Yeah.
Like strictly. Yeah, that's what somebody in chat linked me. They had a post they put in the forums in January about here. I'll just like link it in suggestion box. Just basing damage purely off of caliber of the gun.
It's this whole system that Wargaming has been using for forever.
Well, caliber is only one part of it.
Well, it is the biggest part of it.
I mean, that's something I could like understand. You know, like a hard limitation of the caliber, and then I guess what like ammo type goes into it too. But
yeah, well, HE and Hash obviously are going to
going into the nitty-gritty of it.
There should be like a hard scope. Like a hard limit of caliber, something I could agree with because it makes sense, you know. It's like it's like a factor of it.
But I mean, at the same time, they are trying to retain some. There's some amount of historical accuracy that they're trying to retain a little bit, and those tanks did use those caliber of shells. But at the same time, you can have the same caliber of ammunition, and it can have different relative amounts of TNT per shell. And different velocity that it's firing out of. So it's going to have a higher amount of energy and cause more damage whenever it penetrates. So that's how they're trying to balance it out with still having that historical accuracy.
Yeah, I could understand that. Well, I'm not saying like change like the gun calibration or something like that. It's just like that caliber should have like a range, like a hard range, like not a hard alpha number, but like you can go up and down, you know, because of like the TNT thing, like you mentioned and stuff like that. But it should have like guidelines, I guess, like based on the caliber or so.
And then they could even do it like the AP and APCR rebalance with different damage that the premium shell does as opposed to the regular shell, like has already been discussed. But that's just going back into the whole deal. Let's just cut it off here.
Yeah, so, well, the next thing would be premium ammo rework, which I want to push back until we talk about reskins and stuff like that, if we want to spend so much time tonight going through all that. Let's talk about testing next, and TomAce, you can go, because I know you've been waiting for, just dive right into that, your testing.
Yeah, unfortunately lost our other super tester in the group, but...
Yeah, he had to take off.
Would have been nice to have had his thoughts on all this as well, but I can kind of speak with a few different layers of authority. So I am obviously a super tester, but at the same time, I also do product design for a very large corporation and do a lot of product testing. That goes along with that. We have to prove out all of our designs. They go through pretty rigorous testing. So I have a very good understanding of how testing should work and the process of launching a product. And Wargaming doesn't really seem to follow a very good model for that. Generally, whenever you're testing a product, it's pretty early on. You don't invest time, an exorbitant amount of time and money until you can prove out that a concept is going to work. Otherwise, you end up wasting a lot of money and you're not profitable. Current model for testing here on the console is that we see something in testing. It's generally sent out in some sort of a briefing a week or two prior. We get to play with it for maybe 24 hours, if that. And then at the, on average, 2 weeks or so after testing is completed, that's whenever it goes into the live server. And sometimes it's as little as days after testing. Now, if you have a complete success with testing, there's absolutely no problem with it. Moving quicker than usual with it. Maybe something is just great. It's home run. It goes flying through testing, goes straight into the live server. That's no problem. That happens. Sometimes you actually get that that really good result. The problem is I've never seen one item get through testing and fail. That is impossible. You are going to have product and ideas fail in testing, but that never happens. It hits testing, we get it, we give our feedback, and it always goes live regardless of the feedback. They don't take into consideration how these new ideas, these new tanks, how they fit into the game. They only care about how they function, and that's only a portion of it. I would say that the actual functionality of whatever we're currently testing, that's like 30% of the work. The bigger, the more important thing is how it fits in the game, and they don't really seem to. Well, they don't they just flat out don't care about what our feedback is in that regard.
Tom, just quickly, do you have any idea if you are the first line of testers and the last line, or
no? I'm sure we're not. I mean, something that's not going to. I mean, we're the first community testers before it goes live. There is obviously going to be testing in the background with developers. I mean, they're going to test their own product, but as far as the community goes, we are the first testers in the last.
Sure, that's what I assumed, but I'm wondering if these in-house testers, or whatever you may wish to call them, I wonder if they basically have the say of yes or no. And then when it gets to you guys, you don't really have. It kind of sounds like you don't really have a say at that point.
Right, and we don't, and we used to have. I mean, we never had. I would never say that we ever had a say in whether something was implemented into the game, but there was a time whenever we definitely felt that our voices were heard a lot better, and that if we really strongly voiced that, hey, this isn't right, if you want to bring this, whatever the premium tank is into the game, you need to make these changes because it's just the balance isn't going to work. But that the last time I can recall that happening was, I think there was a minor tweak to, I want to say, the hammer before it was launched, and it was a very, very minor change. It was like a slight, I think, increase in like possibly the horsepower per ton, and I don't even know if it was that. I can't recall off the top of my head what tank it was, but it's been a long time since I can recall an actual change in a mechanic occurring as a result of our feedback.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much the common thing that I've heard from all the super testers I've ever talked to. Have shared that same kind of like opinion. It's like, either they don't feel heard, or some of them like just straight up just don't even give feedback. They're just there to like see what the new tanks are that's coming out, what's the new features, kind of like as like a spoiler alert kind of thing, and like don't really do their job as super testers. I've heard that a lot from a lot of different super
and I mean,
as well.
there's a lot of us that are guilty of doing that more and more, just because we don't feel like what's unless we come across a very apparent bug, and then you get hey, like if I'm driving around, all of a sudden my turret pops off. That's never happened, but I mean, it's just if you come across a major bug, obviously you're going to report it. But short of that, there's not a whole lot of reason to participate more.
Do you have any like points as to what you think would help that scenario, or?
Well,
or just communication.
I mean, communication is a big part of it. But I mean, it's when we're it's when we're seeing these changes. You can't expect real testing to take place days or weeks before a product is launched. That's not realistic. That's why I said earlier that PC has a big advantage on us, because they have the sandbox testing, and I understand that there's a lot of issues that go into that with people using flat out premium consumables and ammunition, and they can just kind of throw their tanks away and it doesn't really affect them. But that is early data that Wargaming is able to collect, and at least get a picture on how this is going to look in the live game. 2 weeks or a week or 2 days before something goes live, you're not going to be able to use any of that data.
And that was the point whenever I talk to Wargaming about like testing stuff, that's like always the first thing I say is there needs to be like a public test server. Like I understand, like it could work just like the super test server, it could even use the same effing client, for crying out loud. They just turn the servers on for like a couple days or whatever to test it and then turn it back off again. I mean, like, if you look at a lot of other successful games, they do something like that. Like Overwatch, for example. We've used Overwatch a couple times for stuff, but they have a PTR that's just like, and a lot of changes have been implemented because of that PTR. Like, a lot of ideas have been shot down because of that PTR too. And the same thing with League of Legends. The same thing, I believe, with Dota, like tanks on PC, like you mentioned. And, it's not like they have to go. Well, I feel like they probably would have to go through a couple hurdles to make that work. But I mean, they already have the client there. They have the super test client there already that they just need to add like a PTR aspect to.
And I mean, there is the financial aspect of it. I mean, that's an entire other server that you have to keep running and everything else. So I understand from that point of view why it's not going to be a small hurdle by any means to get a test server like that live. But like you said, I think even if you're going to open something up for even 24, 48, 36 hours or so, just enough to get people in off of the into some sort of a test environment in a large number earlier on, that would be beneficial, even if it was in a very rough state at that time.
Yeah, I mean, what you could even do is, if you wanted to have a PTR just on the main client, use it like an event, like the lunar event, for example. Do it like that, where it's just a clone of regular standard matchmaker, but it has all these changes implemented, so you could run your tests without actually affecting people's daily gameplay and such.
Because I mean, as it is, if nothing changes now with the way super testing is handled, they might as well just rename it from super testing to like bug hunting, because that's all it is.
Or game preview.
Game preview.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's literally a preview. Like, can I just like start YouTubing from the super test server? Like that's
yeah. Yeah, and that's a comment that I've heard echoed many times from different super testers I've talked to over the last 3 years of playing this game, like constantly, like the same thing. I don't really think I've ever talked to a super tester, come to think of it, that's like had a pure positive feedback of the super test program. Like, that like it works 100%, or really like nothing negative to say about it. So
well, it makes two of us.
All right, well, that's my 2 cents on testing, and I'm gonna go and spend some time with my kids. So appreciate it.
Thank you for being patient with that, dude. I really appreciate it too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Nice talking to you.
Wrapping things up, getting things done.
The rest
get a little smaller, huh?
Yeah. We're becoming the elitist group here. There we go. Have all the people, some people still around. I also need dinner, dude. I'm hungry. But a lot of these things that are left on this list are pretty self-explanatory for the most part. The reason I wanted to touch on balance changes so much is because balance changes can be very opinionated and they're kind of open into interpretation. So I wanted to touch on that. And elaborate on that with everybody. We've made it through all that, with the exception of the premium ammo rework, which is also kind of self-explanatory. The only real thing that premium ammo rework needs to be addressed with is when we're asking a corporation to essentially nerf their revenue, we need to give them options as to other ways to make revenue. Like the same thing with the reskins. You can't just be like, stop making reskins. Like, you know, this is like, that's lame. It's like, that's cool and all. Like, and you know, I generally tend to agree with you, but like, they have to make money somehow. They are a company in the end of the day.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, there's one of those things. There's nothing wrong with have a special, say, spray paint edition mutant come out. I mean, it's one of those. Reskins. I don't see any problem there.
I honestly,
I think the problem there though
is the whole new tank. That's the problem.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
It should never be a completely new tank in that sense.
Like, look at Dota or like look at like Dota or League of Legends and stuff like that when they release like a new skin for something like that. You don't rebuy the champion that is with, you know, you buy the skin for the champion, and I don't see why. That's the part I don't get about it. It's like, that's cool, man. Like, you're introducing like these black tank variants, like that's awesome. Like, they have like this special, like, you know, buff to XP earned and everything like that. Heck, there's camo on World of Warships that does the exact same thing, but you're making people buy the whole freaking tank again. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Well, and maybe that is a thing that they could put into effect. I mean, say you want to get an extra 1% out of that camo on your tank. I mean, there's money revenue there for them, and no, I mean, yeah, granted, it gives a TD or a Bat Chap 1% better, but yet again, come out with some, I know time period camouflage is cool, but add in the different personalizations and charge for it. I bet you they'll make a buttload off of that.
No, yeah, I've been suggesting that ever since we got Club Wargaming. I've been trying to put that idea forward too. It's like a no-brainer in my mind that you can have, like, you know, buy special emblems or something like that for your tank, or buy special camos for your tank, buy like freaking hood ornaments for your tanks, buy like, you know, fuzzy dice that you can hang on like the end of your, buy brass balls for the back of your tank on the hitch or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, yeah, I mean, start implementing stuff like that, personalized bull horns up on the front, you know? Yeah, I mean, that is, yeah, a custom logo. Well, but then you start running with the custom logos, you start getting into like Call of Duty, yes, like Nazi symbols, male genitalia on the side, women bending over backwards nude, just like a Call of Duty.
Yeah, you have to get it you have to get it approved, but I mean, like, I don't really, like, as long as they go through like an approval process, like, you just like send that through somebody in the art department, you know, or like in PR or whatever.
Really easy recognition software out there
that don't work. Like, at all.
They
like,
don't work, but if there's doubtful cases, basically it can still send through half of it and be like, okay, this is doubtful. Let's have someone look at it.
Yeah, it can still show up red flags to, like, get people to look at the stuff that's more than likely inappropriate. That's kind of what I think he's getting at there.
Yeah.
Well, I guess in the end of the day, the point is there's ways to do it, you know? There's so many, in terms of just aesthetics alone, there's so many crazy ways to do revenue that you can make a butt ton of money on, because, like, you just look at, like, League of Legends and Dota. I mean, Dota, for instance, they're mid-season invitationals, or, like, no, it's League, whatever their, like, events are called, that have, like, $5 million, like, cash prizes. All that $5 million is all crowdfunded, and it's all crowdfunded through skins and skin packs and stuff like that, or, like, you know, maybe some straight donations, I think, but I think it's mostly through revenue from, like, a percentage of revenue through skins.
And advertising.
Yeah, like, that's, like, it's just freaking ridiculous, you know?
Yeah, stuff like that could also be more affordable for the average player, because the biggest problem I have with these reskins and stuff too is, like, they either take a tank we currently have on our game, or maybe a tank that PC has that they add, like the IS-5, and then they make it cost, you know, $30 more than it did on PC. Like, I mean, was IS-5's base value is like 15,500 gold? That's like, you know, even all the tank and all the premium tanks they hadn't added yet. And when they did add them, the most expensive premium tank was the Lurve. That was like 12,500.
I believe the Liberté was the most expensive one.
Lurve,
Löwe.
however you say it. Yeah, however you say it.
No, but I'm saying that I was always under the impression that the Liberté was the most expensive one.
I believe I bought the Liberté for 12,000 gold, but as a tech tree tank anyway, the Löwe is at 12,500, I think. So I think that's the most expensive. I think it's the most expensive in tech tree tank.
But since that time, we have a couple of tanks now that are breaking the 15,000 gold barrier. Like that the PC has the same tank that just without the camo that we have, and it's 3,000, 4,000 gold less.
Mm-hmm.
Price, and that's a ridiculous price that a lot of people spend the money on.
Well, I mean, as an example, when I heard the IS5 is coming, I was like, all right, I could add that to the collection and have the whole IS series. But when I saw the price, I literally went, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not giving it to them. So they have priced me out of buying the tank. And I now don't know, even if they brought out a 12,000 gold one without the camo, I don't know if I would, just because of a just ridiculous price they put on the original.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just there shouldn't be like whole new tanks in general, because like people simply can't afford that. I mean, like one way you could work around it if you really wanted to go that route is like just put gifting in the game. PC has gifting. Like when I played, like one of my viewers was generous enough when I started playing PC. He's like, yo man, get yourself like a nice crew, and here's like $5 worth of gold, so I could like not get my shit pushed in basically. And I was like, well, thanks, man. That's nice. And I was like, I didn't know you could gift things in this game. He's like, yeah, dude, they added this. You can gift, like, tanks. You can gift gold. And it's like, well, why don't they have that on Xbox? Like, why? I understand there might be some issues with, especially Sony, but also Microsoft, in terms of, like, being able to send people, like, gift cards and stuff like that, or, like, gifts of some sort. I really don't see why. But that's like an avenue that should be explored, is being able to gift people tanks. It's really no negative downside there. It's just more revenue for you to earn. What if like somebody buys 6 T95s or whatever, or T59s, Type 59s, sorry, and because they want their friends to have them who can't afford them. It's like, who cares?
Well, I mean, just to take my own experience from that, I regularly am near my dad when he's playing the game, and for Father's Day or his birthday, I commonly got him either gold or bought him specific tanks. But I have the facility to literally go to his Xbox and do that. Now, if I could do that for some of my friends online, say that if it's their birthday, maybe get them something small, or even get them full tank if I really have lost my mind and want to give all that money away, then I think it would be great if that option was there. And it certainly would, I certainly think it would give wargaming more money if they implemented that.
That is all down to financial guys to go crunch the numbers on that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping we could get to this when Pat was here, because he's the economics dude. But he had to take off, unfortunately. So, I mean, that's just something I think wargaming should think about, is there's, like, a lot of revenue options they just simply haven't explored, and, like, they're doing these things that are just absolutely triggering the shit out of their community for revenue, when there's so many better ways to do it.
I mean, how many people want to have the Soviet log on the side of their tank, That'd be kind of cool to have that on, like, on a T-32 or something like that, just have the log across the back.
Yeah, kind of like how like the 3488 has one, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like that. Yeah,
it should. But yeah, I mean, or as a run with the IS7, add in put a log on their IS7, whatever that's a good revenue. I think they're overlooking one of the biggest marketing markets that there is the customizations. I mean, look what people spend for just on their phone, all the different customized crap you could do, and the emojis and stuff like that.
So it springs to mind, isn't it something that might still at this point be that the 360 is holding us back?
I completely agree with you
I
on
don't
that.
think so. I don't think so, just because they're getting like the black tanks and like all these reskins too. Like they're able to use those, so there's really
reskins,
if
but
anything,
we're saying customization features like adding a log onto an i7 and that sort of stuff.
I mean, that would, I guess it would be an issue in terms of game size or memory, because in terms of actual performance, no, there should be no limitations there. It would just come down to something that has to do with the servers. Like the servers can't add more space or something like that, you know? Like, you know, exchanging like, you know, like that little ace or something like that you can put on the side of your tank for like putting like a little ace with my face on it that says thumbs up, or like, you know, like the thinking emoji guy or something like that, you know, on the side of your tank. That like that's not a big deal. It's not something that the 360 should have an issue with whatsoever. It's just adding another like skin file.
Well, the whole bigger map thing was also something that held us back for a little bit with the 360. But then they managed to fix that
because they have it, yeah, still. But
I mean, how much of the market are we missing out? Where PlayStation 4 is now getting it because they don't have to worry about that backwards I can't talk. Backwards compatibility. Yeah, that we're missing out.
War Thunder does custom stuff, so somebody in my chat said too. Yeah,
yes, they do.
I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, I mean, like there's like an entirely new world of like ways that they could just make bank. I guarantee you, like people in our community would just go like nuts, you know, buying that stuff up. Like they go crazy. Everyone does. Everyone loves
still on logs.
Yeah,
I mean, I know a guy who hasn't played tanks in maybe a year now. He's got one tier 10, the Axilla, and I reckon that let's say they said for 500 gold, 1,000 gold, whatever number you want to stick on it, you get a permanently pink Axilla. He would come back and buy that and play the game just because of that.
That's something else somebody suggested. That like in World of Warships there is a tier 10 premium ship that you can buy, which is not like you can't buy it with money. You have to buy it with free XP. That's you have to get 5 million free XP on World of Warships in order to buy this ship.
I think it's a 9 because I was playing that just the other day.
Oh, was it 9? Okay,
yeah, it's a 9.
It's a high tier.
It's to get the Iowa.
Yes.
Yeah, and somebody, I forgot, God, I can't remember who suggested it to me, but we were just talking about this like within the last 24 hours. It's like if you had special skins that was kind of like back in Call of Duty days, if you got so many kills with like this tank, you get like a golden skins. Like if you can save up so much free XP on this tank, so you got 500,000 free XP on your Death Star, you can get like a platinum skin for your Death Star or something like that. You know,
it's like long-term goals and stuff like that are really lacking in this game.
I mean, I guess we're saying we want more than MOEs. I mean, give us more, and we'll pay for it. You know, it's one of those people will pay. I mean,
even having the diamond skin as it was in Black Ops 2 with the guns after making a certain amount of kills, right? Having a diamond skin on your Death Star after having 1 million XP on it, still having to pay for it to be a skin.
Well, yeah, in that sense, you're paying with like in-game stuff. You don't have to like pay with real money like in that if you're paying with free XP.
Well, I mean, you could still pay it with gold to have it permanently put on there.
Yeah.
I mean, you earn the right to it, but still having to pay for it. It's fine by me.
Like paying for it twice. Yeah, I guess that would be fine with me too. I was thinking like you would unlock it permanently with like your free XP. Like you couldn't use free XP like you have in your top right. It has to be convertible XP on your tank in order to get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I mean, you could have both worlds. You could have these like ridiculously fun, wacky, crazy skins that you buy, and you could have these like more generic but definitely standout skins that you get if you are either mastered the tank or played the tank enough to earn the right to have that skin. So there is the avenue of both of those still in the game.
Yeah.
If you have the mastery class badge, if you have three marked it and have played, I don't know, to have about 1 million XP on it, I don't know, something like that, and then have your camo be shiny gold. I don't know, just there's so many different things they can do.
You can even do like loot chests, which I know something that I know a lot of people aren't really too fond of loot chests. I personally find the anticipation of the gambling aspect kind of fun. Like, shame on me. But the like, you know,
Don't
like
you
loot
live next
chests.
to Las Vegas or something like that?
I live in Michigan. What? No, it's like, well, I mean, there is a
Kidding.
giant casino here, but yeah, no, it's like loot chests are something that are on World of Warships. It's in one of their games, you know, that you can like get, or you can get and like stuff like on CS:GO and stuff like that. You could like
Rocket
get,
League
like,
has
a
the
skin
same
there.
thing too.
Yeah, like there's like so many games are doing that. A lot of people don't really like that sort of aspect. They kind of think it's like an overused
Because it's
mechanic.
RNG, like you
There's
open a
already
crate.
enough RNG in World of Tanks.
Yeah, but I mean, like you could. I keep jumping back to League, but that's just like good examples from League because I've played that a lot. It's like in League, you can either straight up buy the skin, or you could possibly get it from one of these loot chests too, and upgrade it with like it's a whole nother deep thing. But you can also get it from the chest is like the point. So there's like two different. You can either straight up buy it or possibly get it a little cheaper by buying the chest. And there's just revenue galore there for people. And I honestly don't think the community would be that upset about it, because at least they're not rebuying the same tank 6 times to get 3 different versions of it, you know? So.
Hey, everybody needs a third IS-6.
Yeah, dude.
Or a third T-34.
Yeah, for sure.
It's one of those, it'd be sure be cool if you did type of scenarios.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be awesome. I mean, that... I was just looking through like what we could do next. I saw national crew voices, and that's like another thing that you could do is you could buy certain crew voices. So you could buy like a
Amelia
sound. Yeah, you could buy like
Amelia
Earhart, or you could buy like Brad Pitt from Fury. You know, like you could.
That'd be
like,
20,000 gold.
Yeah, like you could buy like there's like these World War II movies that are being sponsored by World of Tanks, and we have their tanks in the game. Why not put like characters of the game in there that are your crew voice? Like, you know, like there's like a whole option there too. You just like little sound packs and snippets from the movie whenever like they get hit or something. You know, it's like
job I ever had.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it's Brad Pitt saying it. There you
Is
go.
there a, I'd want a TomTom Navigator voice. Turn left here.
Drive into lake, drown.
Get Arnold Schwarzenegger. There you go. Arnold Schwarzenegger right there.
Have Arnold do recalculating.
We're recalculating.
Yeah, I don't even know how I would say that. We need... Oh, man.
There's
so...
a Leroy Jenkins voice pack they said in my chat.
Yeah, that would be great, too. Leroy, for sure. Yeah, so... I mean, there's the... I mean, the premium ammo rework thing is, like, pretty self-explanatory, I think, but there's the ways that we were suggesting as to how you could make up lost revenue by, like, reworking prem ammo and different things like that. I think we kind of... I mean, we could do, like, this kind of stuff all night, too, doing this, but let's... I don't know how much longer you guys want to go on. We've hit basically 3 hours now of talking.
I have one thing I want to say specifically in the suggestions, though, that I feel like we'd all like. The optional server reticle for me is one of the best.
Oh yeah.
In the game.
Yeah.
Because how annoying is it when your gun is facing a tank, and you fire, and your shell comes out like 90 degrees to the left or the right and completely misses.
Yeah.
And the thing is, trying to over-aim your gun for the sake of like lag or whatever is not consistent, because what if your connection just happened to be perfect at this moment and your gun was on the tank? And you needed to shoot when your gun was facing the tank, but then the time you try to over-aim, you're like, oh crap. Now your shot went where you wanted it, or went where it was supposed to go, and you just missed. So the server reticle would allow you to be like, especially when you're turning your tracks in your turret, someone's circling you, or maybe you're circling somebody else, or whatever the case, you're moving fast, because that's generally when this happens. You could see the server reticle where it is and be like, all right, I time it when my server reticle comes over his tank, then I pull the trigger. So you know. And that's like a big thing that really needs implemented into the game. Like,
It begs to differ, though. Again, would that be something that, because that is an extra calculation and a pretty heavy one, if you're going to be going back to the server for reticule aim, are we again getting held back by the 360?
I think in
Maybe.
that case,
For that
probably.
as well.
Yeah, that would be completely 360s why we're getting held back.
Yeah, I think that would probably yeah, yeah, pretty much. So I mean,
have Wargaming ever said they will ever drop support for the 360, or is it basically going to be on Microsoft's head to basically shut down?
Pretty sure
Right.
it's 2018.
I mean, 360 said. I mean, well, what Microsoft originally said that they were going to stop service to the 360s 2 years ago, and now they're just letting that horse just keep getting beat.
Last time we asked for any numbers as far as World of Tanks players on 360, it was somewhere around the 50% area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's going to be one of those. I think we're going to have the World of Tanks on 360 until Microsoft decides to shut down servers for that system. Maybe it's when they come out with the Scorpio. That may be a time for that. So who knows?
Yeah.
They sort of force Wargaming's hand, so Wargaming don't look like the bad guys at that point. It's Microsoft that.
Oh yeah, exactly. The fingers are going to get pointed somewhere, and if Wargaming goes, well, we're just going to ride this horse and be able to come out with the next. Because honestly, Wargaming has not said anything about next generation gaming yet.
Yeah.
They can't. PS4 they did. PS4 they're like new game dynamics for the next gen system, and I think we're being limited.
Well, no, I totally agree there. And I think that
and there's another aspect of this whole thing. I mean, Scorpio's coming out, and indeed, like next system gaming, but then it's soon, and they're going to have to be supporting 3 systems.
Yes, exactly. And so, I mean, I understand maybe there is a strain on Wargaming to still have to spend man hours on that relic.
Yeah, that's something that I think that also ties in a little bit into the like Clan Wars sort of thing, because Clan Wars in itself is kind of like a big undertaking, isn't it, on PC? And so I think that's also a limitation for why we don't have that, because that's something I was going to bring up as well. With Clan Wars is on this poll or clan things of some kind, because it's been like 2 years that we've had clans and nothing has been done with them other than events like Wednesday night fights and WCL. So like nothing. So recognition. Yeah. I mean, there's something should be done with them in client. It's just logical, but I think that's another 360 limitation, especially like a big overhaul. Like I don't know. It's just kind of.
I mean, to be completely honest, I mean the Xbox 360 can never really go 1080 ever. So they could try to push the envelopes of World of Tanks up to a certain point. Here on 360, it's 720. So if they would do a full patch to make this thing go 4K, or even as far as they can, I don't see how it's going to be plausible with them still having to help 360. I don't know. We're going to be stuck in the past for a while.
They're going to have to drop it.
Size available on 360, having a 4K version that's available for Scorpio, and it having to be the same basic client, it would implement or would entail that the same size files are on the 360 as well. So then you're looking at a full hard drive just to have your World of Tanks on there, even if you have a 200 gig drive.
I guess that would be like I think a lot of people just want to see like a timeline from Wargaming, and like one of those subjects to be in that time, like timeline would be when will 360 be dropped, And like a lot of people just want to know that, so we know when we can get the show on the road with a lot of these features that I'm sure we're waiting on, because probably a lot tie into that. As for other topics, sorry.
Let me touch one tiny thing. I mean, ESL is looking at the right area here. They are not developing an application for 360. If you want to make use of ESL and World of Tanks for that whole system, you have to be on an Xbox One.
Yes,
that's interesting.
So
that would tell me that if nobody on 360 can do competitive through ESL, then that tells me that, you know, it's just.
Well, now I feel really bad for your 360 NA.
Yeah, I think a lot of them have upgraded actually.
No. Last I knew, really? it was like 5 out of like 40 people.
Rip.
Yeah, rip.
Well, there you go. There's your official heads up. So
yeah,
start saving those pennies.
So yep, at Anubis, you might want to start telling your guys to upgrade.
One thing that's interesting, I don't know if this is just a line that's being carried through because of the limitations of the 360, but on a Battle Heroes quite a while ago when the Scorpio was sort of brought up, Wargaming said that any extra room that the Scorpio will give them will be going into making the resolution 4K, but they won't touch the frame rate. Right?
Yeah.
Now, I play games both on PC and on console, and I 100% believe that I would rather have a high frame rate over a 4K gaming rig. I game at 1440p at 100 frames per second at the moment on PC. But I do have a system that could put out 4K, but the 4K goes down to like, say, 50, 40, 50, 60, depending on the game. Now,
that's the big battle between PC and console is trying to pull that type of frame rate out of these console systems.
Oh, no, I understand that. I know it's a slightly different discussion, but basically what I was trying to get at is the reason why the one I originally believed was what they stated. The reason one was at 68 frames per second was they pushed the frame rate to 1080p, and their argument was that they kept the frame rate the same as on the 360. But I would be surprised if any of us here right now were to put the 360 and the one next to each other playing the same game, that you would see a frame rate difference because the 360 does just chug that a little bit more. And I'm wondering if that same line is continuing through to the Scorpio, in that they think, right, well, we're going to have all 3 platforms running at the same frame rate, even though that will not work because the Scorpio will run Himmelsdorf Blizzard at a solid 30 fine.
Yes.
The one doesn't quite run it, and I do not want to think how badly the 360 deals with that at the moment, because that must just be like game ending at that point.
Yeah, I'm surprised more people haven't fried their 360s on the other variant maps. Honestly.
If you
probably get scared like looking at
random, oh shit, it's that map.
They have like one of those oven temperature thermometers that you stick in the chickens, and it's like sliding down their disc tray, like making sure it's not overheating or something like that. I could totally see that.
Honey, give me the ice bags ready. It's Blizzard.
I think if there's any OG 360s still out there, the ones that have the Red Ring of Death, I'm pretty sure that weather map would have ended the final one and made him go extinct.
I want to test it.
The all-inclusive Black Ring of Death.
Yeah.
Those are the days.
The colorless Ring of Death. There you go. It's actually dead.
Is that the one where you throw it out the window and the front fascia flies off?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
So, somebody whipped up some eggs and is like scrambling them on their 360 while they're playing Blizzard. There you go. Oh man, it feels bad. There you go. All right. I think the rest of these things, on this list, are pretty self-explanatory. I don't really think there's a reason for us to really go into them super hard.
There is a difference there in opinion. I mean, for us, for the people that know this many things as we do of the game and everything, for us it may seem that it is self-explanatory. is probably a whole host of people playing the game that have no idea.
Well, no, I mean, with some things, but I'm talking about like with minimap improvements, Ace spelled that out with like adjustable size, render circle, and render circle is, I mean, that's #1 on features right now. This for the votes, so I think that's actually #1 with the most votes, like overall, like in every single category. So I think Wargaming knows exactly what the render circle is, like, 'cause it's on PC. Last known enemy location. I don't know if that was a PC feature or not. But
Yeah, it is. It is.
Is
yeah.
it? Okay. Yeah. Mode with player tutorials and videos are available. We touched on that earlier. We talked about that. National crew voices. That's self-explanatory. Optional render or servo reticle. We talked about that as well. Improve wheel UI and add hotkeys for consumables. That's not really self-explanatory so much, and that could be kind of it's not super vague, but
well, I actually asked my dad plays this game a lot, and I asked him what do you take from that, and he said, I don't know what that means. What I reckon it means is that you can map, like, you press repair button and you map engine to another button or tracks to a certain button. That's what I assume it means, but it is very vague to the point where it may not. Like, you can interpret it however you want, really.
All right. Well, this is something me and Ace talked about yesterday, because he had just improved repair wheel UI. Because when you press the X button, sometimes it just automatically fixes something that you didn't want to get fixed.
Yeah, your tracks.
Boned. Yeah,
Tracks.
And so I had the same problem like a year ago, and I pitched this idea to Wargaming a year ago, and was when you press the repair button or heal button or whatever, it completely shuts down all other controller inputs except for the stick. So theoretically, you could press like X and then press like right trigger. I think left bumper still does something, if I remember right. I'm not quite sure on that. But I remember testing it out. Like, pretty much everything dies though for controller inputs. So you could like literally map it where X plus left trigger or X then left trigger equals engine repair or something like that, so you don't have to accidentally hit the wrong thing in a fit of panic that a waffle came around the corner, tracked you, and you're trying to desperately repair and run away before he clips you, and stuff like that. And I don't know how difficult that would be to do. I don't think that's something that's restricted by the 360 at all. I don't see why it would be.
Oh no, that shouldn't. That's straight up button mapping.
Yeah, it's just button mapping. So, well, I mean, there's also coding to add that feature in, but yes, button mapping.
It's tiny, though.
That's what that means. That's what we mean by that particular thing. In-game cam features we talked about as well. Personal reticle features. I'm not even sure particularly what he means by that. I'm guessing he means like change the color of your reticle and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's probably
just like Call of Duty type.
Yeah,
customization. More customization.
Yeah. Crosshair versus bloom circle or something.
I want the Predator.
Platoon, aka Team Battles, 7v7. I guess that would be under map or under the clan thing too, because it's Team Battles. Clan Wars is basically the same thing, right?
Well, it's but when you have build a platoon of 7 people, basically, that you actually enter a different mode in that sense.
Yeah, that used to be like that, didn't it? Kind of.
Yeah.
They kind of did that back in the day. They had like a Team Battles kind of thing, except that they just didn't implement it very well because they didn't make it. There's a few things they need to make happen with Team Battles. You have to be all queuing up as the same tier tank, maybe except with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 light tanks. There needs to be a limitation of like the number of RDs. Like maybe only I feel like you should only be able to have 1 light tank and 1 RD, 2 RDs or 2 light tanks in such a battle. Yes, and then
they could set it at a certain
always
format,
the same tier
like,
otherwise.
Do it like 768 format just through that through that battle system.
Work as well.
Something like that.
All right, you guys chat for a bit because I really have to use the restroom, so I'll be right back.
No.
No. All right, guys, I'll be right back in just a second.
Yes, there was a 7 man platoon option at some point, which created basically a sort of failed team battle system, where sometimes you'd get into a random battle, sometimes it would be only 7 versus 7, sometimes it'd be 14 versus 14, with two 7-man teams go against each other. It was just, you never knew what you were getting yourself into.
The biggest problem was the tiers being mismatched. I mean, tier 8 versus tier 10 platoons. I mean,
absolutely, that was completely broken of it.
I mean, that's one issue, but another issue was that, yes, you're saying 7v7, but you were able to launch into that queue with a 6-stack.
Yep.
You know, so the rules were so vague that it caused that mode to fail.
Yeah. Well, it was a regular platoon, but it was used for more team battles than it was ever implemented for. If it makes any sense, yeah.
No, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I do see what you mean. I think I played twice, and one was a fair game in which same tier of tanks, 7 of us, which was 7 on 7, which was fine. But the next game I played, we were in, I think, tier 8s, and we came up against 9s, and
got decimated.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. And then I went, I'm never playing that ever again, and that's I think that's pretty much where it died with most people.
Yeah, it mostly did. Because it was broken as hell. Only if you had really, really OP players. And
I remember destroying platoons back in the day in that mode. Like, I jumped in a platoon with tier 10s. That was right when the 57 heavy came out. I remember I was playing it all day.
Yeah, you and I were still in war back in that time.
Yeah, we were playing. I don't know who I was playing with but I think that was back when I was still friends with some other people that I don't currently play with anymore. But just going tier 10 platoons, and like I remember one time I don't remember who it was, but we played this same platoon like over and over and over in the 7-man matching and just destroyed them every game.
Oh my god.
And it was broken because we were just better players than them, and like a lot of us were playing the 57 heavy at the time. I was playing it. It was like 3 people playing it at the time, and it was just
brutality.
Yeah, it was brutal.
I mean, this is a lot more of a side issue because the 7-man system hasn't been here for a while now. But in talking about the platoon limit to 3, you still get very, very powerful 5-man platoons rolling around and basically controlling the game. You touched on continuously beating this poor same bunch of guys down into the ground. Now, I remember, this is a while ago now, but I mean, maybe 3 months ago, I was playing late into the night with 3 of my clan friends and my dad, right? So the average WN8 of that stack is probably about 2,800, given a ballpark figure, right? And we kept getting matched against, I don't remember the name of the clan, but we kept getting matched against 4 guys from this clan who were worse for their WN8 stats and probably worse players overall. And we kept rolling over their team, rolling over them, and it got to the point where it was a joke. We met them like 8 games in a row. The last game we played, they were on our team, and we rolled through the enemy team with them. And it does, like, the platoon limit to 3, although I do like playing in 5-mans, because it's really powerful. I think it would be much more balanced with a platoon limit to 3.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've been a proponent of moving the platoon back to 3 for a long time. I remember suggesting it well over a year ago, because platoons to 5 just breaks the matchmaking too. Especially, like, I feel like a lot of the reason we get like the unbalanced number of tier 10s versus tier 9s and 8s or whatever, just way more 1 tier, is because of those platoons. Because plenty of people queue up in platoon with, all the same tank or very close to this, same tanks, or at least the same types of vehicles in the matchmakers.
5E100s, for example.
Yeah.
Well, the most that I see it at is like 2 Super Persians, two T26 E5s or E4s, and and the Liberté or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just
No, I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, okay. Well, there's the. I think that was one of the things. Platoon limit to 3. Yeah, it was one of the player experience ones. Yeah,
they absolutely should.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're looking at 1/3 of the entire team there that you're in good communication with.
I really understand it for in terms of just console gaming in general is a really relaxed, like sort of like, you know, scenario. It's the couch gamers, right? So they just want to play with their friends and have fun and stuff like that. But like it does break the matchmaking system, like Viper said. Like that's what the real problem is. Isn't so much that it's just like a third of the team. It's that like, you know, it's a third of the team that completely unbalances the ratio of tanks between both teams. Potentially, so like that's the real problem with it. I mean,
5-man arty platoon.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to do that, then you should at least like mix it up or something, like limit like arty, you know, like 1 arty per platoon or something like that, you know, so that way it doesn't completely. You don't have a platoon of 5 tier 8 or tier 7 light tanks getting into a tier 8, tier 10 game, and then that team completely gets shat on because they just don't have enough damage or pen to compete with anybody. So,
like 4 AMX Chaffies and a tier 8 arty in a tier 10 match.
Yeah, exactly. So if they limit platoons, like something like that, it could make it a little bit better. Oh, I guess. Well, I mean, it still could. Technically, it's still reading the tanks. It's just like you're limiting the platoon, so you can't have like 5 arties. Like once that arty gets picked, then that's it for the platoon. The matchmaker is still going to read that there's an arty in the platoon, and then there's whatever else in that platoon. But so it shouldn't really affect the matchmaker.
Slightly different mechanics, but similar in terms of gameplay style. On World of Warships, aircraft carriers limited to 1 per
team
division.
Division. Oh, okay.
Yeah, 1 per division, so you can't roll in with 2 or 3 aircraft carriers working together exactly, which is completely fine because if you had 3 aircraft carriers doing this, like hitting the one ship, that one ship is just out the game and cannot do anything about it. You will focus them down and kill them. But same with the arty. If you've got 3 artillery on the enemy team right now, and they decide we are going to stop this one tank from moving forward, they will, and they will. It's basically, unless you hide behind the mountainside, there's not really much you can do.
I can't even tell you how many times that's happened to me. Like, oh my goodness, dude.
I also imagine that. Are you 7F, sorry, Viper, or TNG, sorry?
From the Ace, I've seen numerous videos where Artie just pounds him too, because he always records those.
There'll be they'll see it like there's people that are sort of in the middle and ground will see your tag and go, that's 7F, that's a TNG, that's that's one of the top clans. Stop him. It's almost like having XVM saying you're a bright purple unicorn, and people go, we need to stop him right now.
I've honestly sometimes considered just leaving the clan in game and being like, invite me back when I have to go to it.
Something comes up. Yeah, I know people who have done that for a couple of the different clans. Like that has happened already.
It's why I used to run all the time to the WCL clan tag back when PG was a thing. So, and it's and then all of a sudden, even the WCL tag got focused on. Or got me focused on for some reason.
Yeah.
Well, if I saw you in a game, I'd focus you.
Well, everyone focuses me. I mean,
that's community contributor. I could be on a video.
I could be. There you go. I'm gonna be YouTube famous. Shoot this guy. So I could be a meme. But all right. Reusable consumables like on PC. We also kind of talked about a little bit. I don't think. I mean, that's.
I feel that let me hit it slightly. I mean, I missed part of it. I feel that the reusable consumables is sort of intertwined with the artillery rework.
Yeah, it was part of the
Yeah,
It was part of the balancing to the artillery in the PC at the moment have like 10-meter splash radiuses and stuff, like huge AoE effect. So in order, they brought that in to reduce their alpha, but they gave them that ability to make them actually have a role on the battlefields. But they brought in the consumables doing that effect so that people aren't getting tracked and just continuously stopped.
Yeah. That's why it's reusable as well. And you cannot do the artillery rework without the reusable consumables. That's just... But you can do reusable consumables without reworking artillery.
Yeah, and
is
you
it
can't
limited like on
game has got that.
Is it limited like World of Warships where you can only do like 4 or something like that, or?
I think it's basically just 90-second cooldown, just
like a hard
use it as you can.
Okay. I mean, that's not bad as long as it's not like a game-breaking consumable. I mean, like if you did patch kits, then that would be completely out of the question. Just like completely regen. Yeah.
Well, like a bat chat would YOLO in, assassinate some poor guy, get out with 10 health, and then sit for 5 minutes, getting his health back.
Yeah, getting everything back.
Again.
Yeah, that would be
exactly.
So
man. Okay, well, let's move on to the next section, which is player experience. Fix server lag issues, which are widely experiencing. I really don't think that needs explanation because everyone, I mean, like, people, they get support tickets for that kind of stuff. They know that that's going on, and I'm sure that's being worked on. I don't think they're having 2 middle fingers in the air being like, deal with it, bitches. You know, like, I'm sure they're working on it. I would be really surprised if they weren't. Improved and updated sounds. I don't know about
the
this
183 is broken.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know about
it
this.
Sounds like a BB gun going off.
In the last update, they ruined some of the sounds. The artillery shells landing now sounds like a tiny little like pop or something like that.
like a pebble fell.
Yeah, like I
fell in a pond.
A guy in my clan lost like 2,000 health in a tier 10 heavy tank the other day, and I turned around and said, "It sounds like you just got hit by a light tank." And he's just like,
all right. Well, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, I don't know that. I've been so like taken up with Squad recently and a couple other games I haven't played since the last update. I don't think, or like the last recent little patch.
But apparently, there's only one guy on sounds for World of Tanks console.
Really?
Oh, really?
Then a couple of them got fired or they quit or something like that, because there's definitely more than one when I went to the Chicago meetup 2 years ago.
They probably moved role.
There was
like
they
only need one guy on the sound constantly.
Yeah, there was like 8, because that was when they added the chicken sounds. Remember that? They were like in Chicago they had this whole like presentation video talking about the audio and stuff like that. It was like a group of like 5 guys like going around recording all this different stuff. So I don't know, hire somebody there. I guess.
Well,
I mean, the updated sounds thing, they have the sound files, is just a bug in that case. Like, it's not like, I don't think they intentionally like fucked up everything. It's just like a bug that needs to get fixed. So there you go. You know. Less weather maps and their frequency. There's currently a poll out that they're doing. I don't know if that poll's closed or not. That Wargaming actually has officially out regarding that topic.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting. Come on, Nuke, hurry up with your link. He has proof of there only being one sound guy and one part-time guy for you user interface.
Oh, well, I mean, like, I guess it's more of a coding thing. I don't think that's actually their sound guy. I think their sound guy does, like, all right. I think the game sounds pretty good. It doesn't sound like Squad. Squad sounds amazing, but, it sounds good. It's IMO.
Right. I have a link. Where should I put it?
The weather maps, like, I talked with my stream about this a lot. I think it would be really cool if they were just kind of like their own event, like Lunar and stuff, because I think they are actually like really cool. They're like really aesthetically pleasing, and I think they're like kind of like awesome, like driving around in this middle of this giant storm, but it's really freaking irritating to get them all the time. So I mean, if they're their own event, then that would be kind of sweet, but it's whatever. That's just my opinion on it. I don't know about you guys.
My clan are very, very against it for the most part. There's one guy in there who hates him so much that he says that Wargaming, their next map they're bringing out, is going to be Lakeville Kraken. where there's a giant kraken in the lake, and if you get too close, it will hit you.
It will like grab you.
Yeah,
like it'd be like Pack Island, and it like drags you off the beach or something like that. That would be freaking hilarious, dude.
It would be hilarious. It would be fun as an event specific map. That could be quite fun.
Okay, if that, I'll be honest, if that was like an actual map in rotation, I would hope I'd get that as much as possible because it'd just be so funny to like
be ramming people,
watch people, yeah, just pushing people close to the lake.
Feed the kraken.
They get freaking ate by like Megalodon or something. That would be hilarious.
But for me, I think the one. It does change the balance of the game, and we can argue. Several people can argue until they're blue in the face whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that it does the maps that have the mechanic of reducing the field of view. Yeah. But the one thing I think I get really frustrated at is when the actual weather effect does affect the performance of the system. And as I was alluding to earlier, like playing Himmelsdorf on the one, if you go up to the top of the hill and look down, or even just go into certain alleyways in Himmelsdorf, your game just starts to like turn into a 360 and start going like, ugh.
You know what I think would actually fix a lot of weather maps is, you know how when somebody's spotted and you're aiming at them, right? It gives you the outline of their tank. On weather maps, if they took away that outline and you had to go pure off of visual, I think it would balance it, like, honestly, because you can like snipe and you like can't see anything. All you see is this entire wall of white, but you can see this outline of their tank and you know where to hit them and stuff like that still. And so it would honestly balance that game mode if they just took that outline out of it for just weather variants. Like, then nobody could do anything really about it.
Alright.
Yeah. At the very least, I think less frequency would be good because I've ran into Himmelsdorf Blizzard, Ghost Town Sandstorm. I've actually forgotten all the other ones now. I dislike them in general, but I've had 4 in a row and went, this isn't fun. I'm genuinely not having fun here.
You want my opinion? Remove weather maps that decrease view range completely. Just
keep it cosmetic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool too. I'm totally cool with that.
I don't care being it slightly cosmetic and making you have a harder time sniping, but having it influence spotting range and radio range and all that sort of stuff, just no. You're making it. I mean, yes, the good guys can cope with it much easier than a random. They're going to be looking at that. Oh, there's so many more tanks in Afterlife, but I'm not seeing them. How many?
Oh my god.
Oh man.
I mean, I might be dumbing it down slightly, and then I might be, yeah, like thinking as though the random battle gamers are complete noobs, but they will know certain stuff, but not. I'm not seeing them fully understand how to cope with those mechanic influencing weather maps.
Yeah. All right, well, I mean, there is an official poll up for that because they have listened to feedback and they're like, all right, well, let's take a poll, you know, and so if you guys want to get your opinion known on an official poll for that, it's on Facebook, I think.
Yeah, I don't actually know where it is. I'll need to find out.
I don't
put
know.
my vote
It's
in
link.
I don't even know if it. I don't think they put it on the portal. I don't have a link. I'm sorry.
Link. Damn you!
It's somewhere. It's been posted somewhere. I don't know. I saw it like somewhere in the Discords and stuff like that.
There's a survey for it, but you can get. I got it emailed to me.
Oh, it's emailed to you? Oh, Jesus. Oh yeah, that's right. Ace made a meme about it. I remembered. All right, check your email. That's probably there. You go. Next one would be matchmaker improvement, similar to PC. I don't know nothing about this because again, I don't play PC. So have at it, boys. Explain that.
Which one? Sorry, repeat that.
Matchmaker improvement, similar to PC.
Matchmakers from PC currently isn't that much perfect either.
Is it better though?
That thing still broke with light tanks.
It might balance itself out once the novelty of those tier 10 light tanks wears off, But currently, as it stands, if you launch at a certain moment of the day, you get nothing but tier 10s. And then
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, if you get all tier 10s, that's not an unbalanced game. It just may not be an enjoyable game. But right now, we can have wildly swinging tiering as tanks. I was in a game the other day where my team had 2 tier 9 artilleries. The other team had no tier 9s.
yeah, it's sometimes these matchmaking balancing systems are broken. Yes, I have to agree with that.
Now, I'm not saying I'm not saying I necessarily want exactly what the PC's got, but at least they implemented a sort of hard change to how it should work. And if extenuating circumstances, like if you launch it too late at night and stuff, affect it, then fair enough. You know, that's just gonna have to happen. But at peak hours, it'd be nice to have very not set game, but set ways it can work.
I've had games, and I've seen games. Just recently, a screenshot was posted where there was 1 tier 10 artillery in the entire game, and the rest was tier 9 and 8s. So one team had a tier 10 artillery, a CGC in this case, on mines, which could be really crucial.
Oh, jeez.
Oh
my god.
I know, and the other team had I think a
fine.
40-43 or something like that. I mean,
That's
how
just sorry.
screwed is the other team then?
Yeah.
But I've also been in matches with like what where there's 8 or 9 tier 10s on one team and the other team has 4.
Yeah, I lost the last time I played. The last game I played was like that, and that forced me off the game. I think yesterday, and I just went, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm stopping for now.
High tiers should always be balanced in amounts, except for maybe artillery parts. And then there's also the tank destroyer balance. There's so many things that they can do to make it so much better, and there is enough people playing to balance it out. I firmly believe that that sitting in the lobby for 2 minutes waiting for a game, that a lot of people would rather have that than have the game be completely imbalanced.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
For me, I think the matchmaker, one of the how I would like to see the matchmaker work would be, because you get a lot of these games now where, especially at tier 10, it's like the majority of, so the tier 9s and 8s just got screwed over,
Mm-hmm.
And generally, I'll admit that part of the problem with this is the population of our servers isn't really that high, so it's hard for the game to make as many balanced games. But in my personal opinion, I would rather if it was just going to be, team and then just a few tier 8s or in 9s, I would rather have just been a 9v9 tier 10 game, Therefore, the people at tier 10 would have, they wouldn't have, just be balanced, and the people in tier 9 and 8 wouldn't get screwed. So I'd rather have the matchmaker do this. It normally does the standard tier, the middle number of middle tier, and then the highest number bottom tier. And then as that happens, you'll notice tier 10 will start to fill up with more players in the queue. And once it gets a large number of players in the queue, it just makes a full game of only tier 10 or a full game of only tier 8 or whatever, queue gets over, or tier gets oversaturated with players. So you either get a good balanced game or you get a same tier game. Opinion, tier by tier at least.
Yeah.
I'm now that I think about it, I'm genuinely surprised at how often I don't get a full team sheet of only 8s, only 7s, only 9s. So I assume that the system weights it more to have.
It wants to have the +2 -2. It wants to have all 2 tier, a 2 tier difference in the average game. It's set up to do that. But
it's
same
actually
tier
a lot of
games.
fun having those entirely same tier. It's a little at lower at tier 9, 8, 7. Those are extremely fun. Straight up tier 10, I don't like them, to be honest.
Yeah, that one's Matchmaker is currently leading for that section of player experience. So people really want the PC matchmaking system. Like I said, I'm not familiar with it. So, but we only have 2 more things to I don't think we're going to talk about the decline in player base thing, because that's like a really long conversation.
Yeah, that is a super long conversation.
This is super long conversation. We'll talk about that if we ever do one of these things again. Which somebody suggested that we should do this like a monthly sort of thing, like a little community, like get together, chat about.
I think monthly is still too much. That way, I'd see it more like a quarterly thing.
That's what I was thinking.
Quarterly, bi-monthly, maybe.
Yeah, there's not like a lot that happens in a month. With like, I mean, you have your updates, but it's not like anything crazy to really talk about.
If you do it quarterly, there will be like you could talk about what premium tanks are coming in, as well as the latest patch. You know, because there will be patches in 3 months intervals at least.
Yeah, we can. It's something that we can like discuss like more between everybody and stuff like after this is all over. But the last 2 things that we're going to touch on are saving the best 2 for last, because they're kind of similar. They kind of revolve around the same thing. I think that both of these have been added to this because of the comp background of, like, you know, how we started, and that is 0 or decreased cost of training rooms and 2 flag assault. Now, 2 flag assault, the poll results don't really surprise me whatsoever, because it's honestly, you're either a competitive player or you're not a competitive player. If you're a competitive player, you care. If you're not, you don't, because it's all like, that's purely essential for only competitive things.
It has no business in random battles.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like that doesn't surprise me at all. So that's like wargaming. You know, we've been asking for 2 flag assault for competitive for a long time. It's in the coding. They've already said that and stuff like that. It just needs to be implemented. I don't know if that's a 360 thing. I don't see why it would be, but you know, that's pretty self-explanatory.
No, I don't think it's a 360 thing, and they never said that it was a 360 thing, because it's still basically 2 base caps doing the same thing. So coding wise,
I know they haven't said that. I just said it was in the coding of the game. They just haven't done anything with it. That's
they said I remember them saying that they had it ready, but
it's just hold up for something or other. The decrease or 0 cost of training rooms. There's somebody made a point. I had another conversation with somebody who also, I can't remember who it was. It may have been you, Viper. That somebody brought up that I didn't think about. If you have 0 cost in training rooms, it honestly really does nothing but like help the game in the sense of, 1, people can go and practice, and it's new player friendly, so you can go and we can do all the things we talked about, where if these new players can grab somebody they know, and the new players and then the experienced players can explain without worrying about paying out a bunch of silver to simply explain mechanics, like in a training environment, because that's what they're for. They're training rooms. Another thing is player-made game modes, where like you set like, you know, honor system rules for something like that and come up with like a mode like paintball or something like that. Big examples of this would be Infection on Halo and my personal favorite of all time, Griffball on Halo. Those are all made in Forge mode, which is basically the training room of Halo.
Cat and mice, cat and mouse tanks game. Yeah,
and things like that. I don't really see the revenue advantage of training rooms from making it so that way you're shelling out just hundreds of thousands of credits to pay for training rooms and stuff. I really don't see the scheme there, or like to make revenue or anything like that. I don't really see the reason not to have it 0.
Sorry.
No,
I was coughing. I suppose the from wargaming standpoint, they may go, right, you can go into a training room and fire hundreds of thousands of credits if you want. But if you want to do that, realistically, you're going to have to own a premium tank to do that. So that will sort of force people to go buy premium tanks. The thing with the competitive scene is that I would be very surprised if there's anybody in one of these clans who are wanting serious competitive game modes to not have a premium tank, to be a free-to-play player. There cannot be one of them. Do you know what I mean? They must have the ability to do that. And all they're basically doing is taking time away from us because we need to grind silver in the normal game in order to fund our competitive play. At the moment, I suppose this is one thing as well. I'm not playing the game as much as usual because I've kind of got to the straw that broke the camel's back with the game, and some things are quite frustrating me. But I come on and try and play as much competitive as I can because I really enjoy that. But at the moment, I've got a nice bank of silver to do that with. But eventually, that's going to run dry at the moment. But I don't know if they were to make that free, I don't know if I would play public games anymore, or at least not to any substantial level. So I don't know if that's maybe a criteria to which they are sort of not doing it.
Well, there's not going to be a lot of people that actually have that same standpoint as you.
Yeah, because people are still working towards their marks and stuff like that. Like, obviously, you don't get XP or, like, you don't get stats and stuff like that in the training rooms, and that's what a lot of people still work for. Even if you have, like, all the tanks, I think people still work for getting those, like, 3 marks on certain things they want. And if they add other features like we talked about earlier, like getting so much like convertible XP on your tank, you get like a skin or something like that, that's even more reason to go to like pubs. So there's ways to kind of offset. I get like what you're saying because like, you know, it'd be fun to just screw around with friends and like do all these different game modes, like set up like, you know, a line down steps and have light tanks on both sides and play paintball. You know, be like, can't cross the line, you know, like that'd be fun. I would do that, like, you know, for a couple of hours. Like that'd be a lot of fun. But
the one thing is, if they literally made the training room 0, that is one mode in the game that is 100% free to play. There's no mechanic, there's no forcing into money. And I think that might be why they haven't done it.
Well, you still have to have your own tanks still, right? So you still have to play in pubs to get whatever tanks you want to use there. You can, it's not like it turns you into a press account or anything.
No, of course.
You could make it so prem ammo maybe is like costs some money or something like that too, or whatever. I don't know.
Well, at the moment, if you're playing competitive, pretty much all it gets fired.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when we're saying we want it 0 or decreased, then that's basically what's happening. We don't we want the 20 grand consumables to be free, and we want the premium ammo to cost nothing. Do you know what I mean? That's basically what it is, the call for.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a suggestion by Nuke that they should make it so you can use silver at an increased cost to convert XP instead of just gold. Nah, that would decrease revenue from wargaming and.
See, I mean, I get what he's saying, but that is like a big revenue point for wargaming, and I think that would be asking a little too much of them to try and like get rid of that because one, it's
it would be pay to win because then if you do that, you can just buy a premium tank, which will in the end also create convertible XP and the silver to convert it to.
I guess it depends on how high you're setting the silver mark, right, per XP ratio. You know, I'm assuming it would be really freaking high, like 100 grand per 1 XP or something silly like that. I don't know. Because it would still be it's still technically can be pay to win. You know, it doesn't it doesn't turn it into pay to win because you'd be buying a premium tank, getting a bunch of silver, and then converting when you can already buy XP. You know, buy convertible XP.
I don't know. I'm not liking it.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that, but
I don't think it would. I just don't think it would. I don't think that would ever fly under wargaming.
And without the pool, training rooms take away from multiplayer pool, and without the pool, if everyone is screwing around the training rooms, the game dies. I really don't think it would be that populated. I think they would actually be used. Right now, I think training rooms are not really used for anything except for competitive stuff and scrims. Like, that's all they're used for as far as I've ever seen. And I don't know. at least should be decreased so people can practice and stuff like that without breaking the bank, you know, at the very least. It's kind of ridiculous how much money people lose doing this stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that sums up all the things that we had on the list here, unless anyone wants to touch bases back on anything we already talked about or continue.
The only thing that I would like to see is, from a streamer standpoint, would be I would like to have the easy button. I mean, I know streamers have been asking for that Staples to swap teams faster, or to even the fog of war aspect. We worked around it.
Yeah.
But I know right now, Training Room trying to stream, it's way broken.
Yeah, it's very tedious. That's for sure.
I mean, someone dies and you get zipped off to the on the map to a different tank. So you can't even stream like a kill shot or something.
Is that just a bug that they have right now that they have to work on?
Right now.
Tank?
Somehow that bug came in onto that part. I don't know if they're working on it. I know I've put a ticket in. I have not received any response.
Wait, what is the bug now?
Yeah, what exactly does it do?
If you're in overhead view, in free camera,
yeah,
the minute someone shoots another person and kills them, say if you're on Team A, and then on Team B, you are on Team A, spectating over the battle, and one of the Team A kills Team B, you get zapped down to one of the tanks down the line on Team A, and you go into third-person mode. But now, say you're on Team B and one of Team A kills Team B, the camera does not move. You can still stay in free camera mode.
So if your team that you're sitting as a spectator on, if one of them dies, you're fine. But if a player on the other team dies, you get screwed and get moved tank.
Yeah, it puts you on a random tank on back into third player like you're playing tanks.
That's weird.
yeah. It's a weird bug. I'm like, and so I mean, Anarchy said, I mean, it's happened to me on Wednesday and again on Friday. I mean, so last night.
I'm interested to how that's passed. Well, I realize how it's passed the super test because like who's going to be checking that exactly, but I'm wondering how that's missed in-house testing.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely weird. I know it just made it difficult last night to do Friday night fights, and it made it real difficult on Wednesday night fights. So
you'd have to have like two streams somehow matching together.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I never did it before, but one of you guys
actually,
yeah.
If you set up an RTMP or RMTP server, something like that, yeah.
All right, boys. Well, I am going to call it for me. I don't know if you guys want to continue talking. Then feel free.
I'm done as well, man.
I'm done.
We're pushing 4 hours. Like that's
I'm
pretty,
well done,
pretty
cooked
okay.
and overcooked.
How was your chicken last night, TV?
Yeah, dude. How was your chicken yesterday?
It was so succulent. It was perfect.
It's marinated to the extreme.
Marinated for like what? 4 hours? 4?
Damn, dude. Nice
awesome.
Nintendo.
Lovely.
All right, guys.
Awesome.
Well,
anyways, thanks for having me on. I hope that I hope if I do get to do this again, it's not under these circumstances where it was called because of a boycott.
Yeah. Me too. I hope
we don't want to go to extremes, but the community will go to extremes if needed.
Yeah. It was a good time. Thank you, everybody in the chats for joining in. Thank you, you guys, for all showing up and staying as long as you did. I really appreciate that. And to everybody else, if any of the other guys who were talking with us earlier watched the VOD, thank you for joining us earlier as well, too. Thank you very much. Thought it was a really productive conversation. We covered a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And if Wargaming watches this, I just want to let you know, Wargaming, that we have, there's multiple facets for you to, if you want. We talked about earlier about poking the brains of like some very skilled players. Like somebody in my chat brought up during the EA thing today, like the developers from DICE that make Battlefront 2, they flew in a bunch of like top Battlefront players and streamers and stuff like that to pre-play their game, and they even made like the online trailer from like all their content and stuff like that. So you have a huge player base here on the competitive side of very experienced players that are very mechanically gifted to poke the brains of if you want ideas or feedback on things. So just let you know. And thank you for watching.
Yep.
Yeah.